Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
The 1-0 Hayward with a fly ball to right. That baby's on its way, and it is long gone. Probably 15 rows back into the pavilion, just to the left of the Arizona bullpen. 2-run shot. The Dodgers have the lead back. It is 5-4.
Toledo, the 1-1 swung on, hit well, right field. It's got a chance. It's going, and it's gone. A laser for Harper over the out-of-town scoreboard, right center field, and just like that, this game is tied up. Harper's 13th of the year, and it's 3-3.
And the pitch hit high and near down the left field line. I think this is a no-doubter. Way on. Upper deck. 3-run shot for Polanco. His ninth. 10-6 Minnesota.
Yes, I am. But I got places to be. Yes, I want my wife and my daughter will be here at the volleyball day, and my daughter's playing volleyball, and they're very excited about being here. I was just out there walking out there with Kelly Hunter a little bit ago, and just talking about standing on the court and looking around and being like, oh my gosh, what an awesome opportunity for our girls to go out there and play. So yeah, I wish I was going to be there, but can't be in two places at once, and we got a job to do. We got to go to Minnesota and rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm all for like folks having shows here. That's what this is for. But like most bad kids, when they get a messy room, clean up your room. Clean up your room.
My mic's on, right, Shane? It's just my headphones.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Okay.
How about me not being able? So what I'm really hoping, while I'm not mad at the No Block No Rock guys, I can't find the Wi-Fi jack to hardwire.
Yeah.
So secretly, I'm hoping that since I'm on just the regular Wi-Fi, not hardwired, that I cut out so I don't have to be on StreamYard.
It's a little funny because, speaking, I should probably get in StreamYard.
Yeah, that's typically a good thing.
Listen, we're in day 2. We're still working out some of the kinks here. It'll be day 1 of the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill that you can come here, and where we're live from, they open at 11.
Devil's in the details, right? You know what I really like?
What's that?
It's kind of innocuous. I like the wallpaper right as you walk in front of the door.
Okay.
It's just it's a good feeling as a guy that loves the Mavericks to see the UNO Omaha
get a little love.
So yes. So that might be. I mean, Dollar Bill has some qualities that I admire.
Yeah.
His affinity for the Mavericks may be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair. I appreciate that.
I wore I wore another wrestling sweatshirt to practice yesterday.
Yeah,
Mavs. I hear there's a big event that the great athletic director, Mr. Dow, has in the hopper.
Oh yeah,
for the Mavs.
Give a little teaser here.
Little wrestling.
Little teaser? No.
I mean, just getting some guys in the same room, celebratory. Right. Okay. I'm pretty happy. Smart man. Smart man.
Well, he came over from Creighton, so he's got to be.
Yeah, I tell you what, he's pretty legit. He's pretty legit. Not to go all MC Hammer this early in the morning.
Too legit?
I can't even remember. Was it 2L
to quit?
Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey.
That's really a little before my time. Just like a little bit.
Youngin.
Speaking of which,
going up on a Tuesday.
By the way, we are live on AM 590 ESPN Radio Omaha, live on YouTube, Twitter, ESPN Tri-Cities, out with our friends in Central Nebraska.
Very good, you geographer, you.
Listen, I've seen a map or two in my day.
Attaboy.
But no, speaking of back in my day,
in the day I was young, I used to hang in the.
I'm bringing up Twitter to make sure nothing crazy happened overnight.
Yeah.
And I see Jennifer Love Hewitt trending on Twitter. And so I immediately think one of two things: untimely death, because that's why people who you haven't heard of in 10 or more years are trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or she had some unfortunate photos leaked, neither of which was true. Thank God. Because Jennifer Love Hewitt was like my first celebrity crush.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
You're not a Jennifer Love Hewitt guy?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
No. I'm weird though.
The movie Can't Hardly Wait was really important for me.
That is not in my library. I know you're shocked. That was not in the old DV watch list. Now I have some curveballs, but that is
What's the biggest curveball in your watch list
that I really like?
Yeah,
Joe Dirt.
Yeah, I would not have pegged that probably.
Big Joe Dirt guy.
Really?
Yeah, life's a garden. Dig it. Yeah, keeping on. Is
it just the sayings? Is it just his little one-liners?
I just like Joe Dirt.
There's a lot to like about that movie.
My
cast is
Shane
great.
liking Joe Dirt
my
is
man
like
Clint
right on brand.
was hilarious. I that's back before Kid Rock got weird. So I used to like Kid Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big bomb to the bomb, bang, bang, bang.
And he kind of started doing this other stuff.
Yeah, I mean he's a little out there, but to each his own. But yeah, big Joe Dirt fan.
The Trans Am better than the Hemi.
Yeah,
that's why Mama named you Joe Dirt.
What's okay? So I'm curious now. What are some of your other curveballs?
The Breakfast Club, which is popular.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
But especially
doesn't
really fit my personality.
No, but there's how old were you when that came out?
I don't know, probably 12, 11.
So
Shane, you're great with movie years, Shane.
I would guess like 86.
What year? That might be right. What year did the Breakfast?
Either 84 or 86, yeah.
Well, 1984. Whose album was that, Shane? Do you remember?
Super helpful. 1984?
Yeah.
You mean like George Orwell?
No, it's good book. A little too long. I was bored. Was that was Van Halen 1984, Shane?
Yes, Van Halen was 1984.
Let's go.
I'm not a big Van Halen guy.
The little angel was on the front.
Do I look like a Van Halen guy?
You certainly don't.
But I did know that. Props for me on our trivia game already this morning.
On the Breakfast Club was 1985. So right in the middle there, Shano.
Yeah, I was 11.
So there's
very impressionable.
There's like cultural phenomena.
Married?
Yes,
married.
Cultural phenomenons that happen between the ages, like in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
I kind of give people a pass on because they are like super impressionable at those ages. Like there's probably stuff from when, that's my Creed deal. Is like I was like 12 years old when Creed started popping up.
I like Creed.
Okay, well, thank you because I love Creed.
Scott Stapp.
Dude, that's like I get that it's not like the most artistic music in the world.
I just heard the news today. I think
I take a lot of crap for my love of Creed.
Hey, so how long do you? I was how many years old? I was today years old when I learned that song was about having a kiddo.
So I knew that because I had seen like Behind the Music or something.
I didn't watch those shows.
Just some random
music documentary guy.
Kind of, they're pretty interesting sometimes.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree to disagree.
Not always, but I like documentaries in general. So
MC Hammer Rise to Fame.
No, I didn't see the MC Hammer.
Yeah, well, me neither.
But
have you seen her? Tell me, have you seen her? If people are like, "Oh my God, this is the lead into the Doug and Daddy show." Yeah, we'll talk sports here eventually.
We're off the rails a little bit already today. That's okay.
Choo choo.
I like to give people a pass on things that happen like in that area of their life because you kind of just get caught up in stuff, right? Yeah. It happens. It's all right.
That choo-choo thing comes naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hopping on that train?
No, I do it for Anthony Rizek sometimes when we're warming up.
Yeah.
Just because I call him the A train.
Sure.
I tell our team all aboard because we're only as good as that guy is.
Well, he's pretty good.
He's way good.
Yeah.
So I call him A train.
I'm gonna need some schools to start shooting out scholarship offers.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, right? And 2024 is quarterback. I get it. It's kind of late in the game, but it is It is extremely aggravating.
Somebody's going to get a player way better than they deserve at this point in the game.
Really good player.
Want to set up the show for you real quick. We are.
Why would we do that on a Tuesday on a sports show?
Set up the show?
Yeah.
Well, because Sasha gets mad at me if I don't. So
Well.
So,
she was awful nice yesterday.
Well, it was our first day. I think she wanted to get things kicked off.
And she knew she had to exhale a tremendous amount of patience teaching me how to set up my equipment for Thursday when I'm on the road in Minnesota.
Yeah, I saw you come in. You have this headset.
Yep.
The special headset for your computer.
Do you know she turned everything on for me?
Like the computer and everything?
So guess what?
Did she get your email hooked up too?
No.
Okay. I still need to do that. Okay.
So I can't remember how she turned the power button on. Although maybe if you just plug it in the Shane, what's the little square thing that goes in the computer that has the little different plug-in things?
The square thing.
I thought it was a battery, but it's really not.
Oh, I don't know.
Dongle?
Dongle.
Oh, dongle.
Yes.
There we go.
Dongle. The
so she
guy that used to control boxing with the crazy hair.
No, that's Don King.
Whatever.
Not dongle. He might be a dongle, but
stickler. Yeah, so we walked through that yesterday over at headquarters.
That's good. That means I don't have to do a show by myself on Thursday.
Yeah, so
as long as you wake up.
She still won't quite turn me loose, and she goes, "No, I don't land until 6:35, so I can't get to the hotel for setup. But you could call me." I was like, "Geez, I'm not that dumb." Hey, what's your number again? No, so I'll be ready to roll.
I'll set up a little conference call between you, me, and Sasha. Make sure everything's good to go.
How many times do you think Shane will call me Thursday morning in Minneapolis?
Over under's 2.5.
Hey, are you good? Hey,
you taking the over the
all
under?
Clear? She even showed me the little volume thing, and I'm not taking. Listen, I'm not taking the stick mic. I'm taking the headphones with this mic.
Sure, yeah.
Because in a hotel room, remember when Brian Windhorst was chastised for being too loud doing a report from his hotel room a couple months ago?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but hopefully the smart schedule people at the university will be in kind of will be secluded in a very popular hotel. Maybe we'll only be 3 floors or 2 floors.
Yeah.
However many floors you need for 80 people. It's only 40, probably 55 rooms, I'd guess, if you do support staff. 60 rooms, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
2 to a room. And
yeah.
Now, I'm not sharing a room. But,
well, of course. I mean, come on.
Well, I think it has to do with me being in my 40s.
Well, it's because you're not a college kid. That's what I mean.
It's I don't.
College kids are used to sharing rooms. 40-year-olds less used to sharing rooms.
So I wonder how he'll do the room pairings, Coach Rule.
It's something he's thought about a lot, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's one of those.
I do actually, Coach.
That's one of those things where we were talking about this yesterday. Where
I know the dorm room pairings were out there.
Yeah, and they were very intentional.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I mean, I don't think he's going all Herman Boone out there and trying to get opposites attract, that type of deal.
Yeah. I'm your daddy now, Gary.
Say I'm your daddy.
Say who's your daddy?
Say I'm your daddy. That's remember the Titans reference. We're not being weird, I promise.
Strong side.
Left side. Great movie, by the way.
Big fan.
Big remember the Titans guy.
I coached with a guy that went to that
really?
coached at that high school. Yeah.
Really?
The Wiz, Dr. Morbeck.
Interesting. Oh, I met him.
I call him Doc, but
yeah.
It's just because he's smart.
Well, is he an actual doctor?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's fair enough.
You call him the Wiz for short.
You can get a hold of us on the email inbox, the DB Show at hurrdatsports.com, or the Warhorse Casino phone line 888-638-4876. Or you can hit us up on Twitter as well. I'm at Ravi Lulla. What is your handle? I don't even know.
I think I'm just at Damon Benning.
Okay, that's what I figured.
I didn't set it up.
That's the least surprising thing I've heard this morning.
Yeah, I did not set. I didn't even want to be on Twitter.
Well,
but now it has become a necessary evil.
Oh yeah, it's part of the job now.
Yeah,
right.
I was like, I'll never tweet. I don't know why you're setting this up for me, Josh.
He's
like, yeah. What's your password? What do you want your password to be? Let's just say it, and then I'm like, 11 years later,
and you're just still fighting with trolls on the internet.
No, not too bad.
I'm just kidding.
Not too bad.
No, but you do engage with people, which I appreciate.
I do.
That's our first conversations were on Twitter.
Was on Twitter?
Yeah, long time ago.
I don't. And a lot of times I just had this conversation. I had a post yesterday where I think people want me to be some, not all, like, super confrontational and combative. And I'm like, I'm okay with people's opinions. Like, it's totally fine. Like, people can have some strong takes.
Sure.
Some of them are rather malicious, and
see, that's where I start having a problem.
I know, but I am fairly thick-skinned. So
Yeah.
It's okay.
Mine's more if they're malicious towards other people.
Oh, well, this one is sometimes it's it's family, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
if they're malicious towards me, I can kind of let that go.
Yeah.
But if they're malicious towards other people, or if it's like irresponsible,
a lot of critiquing and opinions of my kiddo.
Well, I imagine
and that's going to happen.
Only
right?
going to get worse as decisions come.
Well, I joke with people sometimes, and Mike J. Schaefer, who we'll talk to later in the show, he didn't call me this, but he referred to this to be careful not to be, and it was a very strong expletive. He's like, don't be a blank. And I was like, well, I'm not really. I'm only saying this to you. I just sit on a lot of things.
Right.
And he's like, you're in a tough spot. You got to be careful. And I was like, Schaefer, I've been managing this, but
like Schaefer, I know.
Schaefer dropped about 16 expletives.
Really?
It was basically Mike J. uncorked yesterday. I called him because I needed to know a couple of specific things that I knew he would know off the top of his head.
Yeah.
And he was good. But, I was messing with him about a lot of stuff. And I just was telling him, in my position, you wear a couple of different hats simultaneously. Sometimes I'm a dad. I'm always a coach. Sometimes, well, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Nebraska. I'm a fan of sports. I kind of I should be rather subjective when it comes to a lot of topics, unless it's my personal opinion. Sometimes I have to critique high schoolers and college players, which I had to get used to.
Yeah.
And so I walk a very tight. What movie was that from, Shane? Toit.
I don't know.
Austin Powers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Fat guy, the B word. I don't think we should probably say that this early
Probably
on the
not.
show.
There's kids in the car.
Fast things fast. Have bigger chunks of
Fire the laser!
I was never a big Austin Powers guy.
Sharks with freaking laser beams.
Hey, that's the only one I watched. I got through a little bit of Goldmember because I wanted to see what Beyonce was.
Sure.
But I didn't watch the first one.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Austin Powers guy.
It's okay.
It's never been really my jam.
What if that was a guilty pleasure? Would you have looked at me like that's kind of
I'd be surprised, but it's kind of one of those, like, it's popular enough that I understand that people like it. It's just not really my deal.
So I need some advice real quick since we're talking about travel.
Yeah,
You've seen my itinerary, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Did you notice the parts in red for the non-football staff? Like when we have to be on the bus and where we have to be and all this other stuff.
Let me bring it up real quick.
If you're me, how hard do you think it is to like not want to sit in meetings? Like, would I get kicked out?
Oh,
what do you think? All right, going out on a limb.
I would probably say you wouldn't get kicked out.
Would it be awkward?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. I just, because I'm not going to ask.
Right.
I may just show up and have them ask me to leave.
See, I would rather, that's interesting that you'd prefer that over asking.
Fits my personality.
Yeah,
I'm typically a forgiveness guy and ask later.
I am in most things, but there's certain situations where if I'm not sure I'm supposed to be somewhere and I don't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah.
If I think I need to be somewhere, I'll ask forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah. Well, I got checked Saturday in coaches meetings.
You got checked?
Oh yeah.
How so?
Generally speaking, my head coach said, "Hey, I have some really tough decisions to make during the game, and sometimes emotions run high. I'm going to need you to understand that you can't just say whatever you want to say." Basically, was the gist of what he says. And it was weird because he remembered that I said it,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like
a big thing.
No, I didn't think
it was just kind of an off the cuff remark.
Yeah,
and a passing remark, and it didn't really stick with you, but it stuck with him.
Oh yeah, I said, hey, we have 3 timeouts. This was in the first half, and he said, yeah, we're also up 35-7. That's what he said, right? And so I was kind of walking away, and I'm like, aren't we always supposed to be coaching?
Yeah.
That, because he always says, he's a big ABC
Always
guy.
be coaching.
I mean, even in downtime, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, coach him up. So I didn't think much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stored it in the Rolodex.
I could see that.
But it wasn't snark.
No, but I could see how it would come off as snark.
Yeah. So I was like, I said, oh, I'm sorry. Like I did. I said,
yeah,
because we have a fantastic relationship. And he can say whatever he wants to,
right?
Just because I know that he's got my best interests at heart. But yeah. So I mean, sometimes it's a permission thing.
I could see that coming off as snarky, though. I could also understand how it's like a genuine.
It was because
like,
I'm his timeout guy.
Right.
I just let him know, and it's still the first half, so we're playing football, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, noted.
Good to know.
Next time he responds, just keep it pushing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not thumbs up. Give him the ET sign. No, but he's great. It's just
got it.
And I've seen this, so sometimes you'll see that at practice.
Yeah.
Right, between coaches and interactions, and sometimes guys get cut off at the knees, and it's not personal.
Right.
Which is one of the things that I really like about this staff because they coach so hard.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you watch Dvorak, and I mean, Tony White is Evan Cooper. Right. Like, they're just constantly coaching hard. And sometimes you're trying to move, and it's a staff that I think is trying to figure out, hey, are we coaching on the fly? Are we going to wait for the film room to correct it?
Yeah.
Because you've been at those practices, right? Like, whether it's Creighton or whatever, your own, something you have to feel whether you want to actually stop the flow of what's going on and teach it.
Yeah.
Teach it on the fly.
Well, it's different, not just staff philosophy, but time of year, right? Like in preseason, off-season stuff, a lot of times it's, hey, let's coach on the fly. Let's correct it in the moment. Whereas other times when you're getting to,
oh, hey, it's a clock.
Hey, how about that?
Thanks.
Hey, we're almost up.
We'll probably need that.
But other times when you're maybe getting ready for game prep or stuff like that, you need to get through things.
Yeah.
Right. There's certain times where it's okay to sort of grind practice to a halt to make sure you correct things. And there's other times you have to get things installed, or you have to get a game plan in, and you have to maybe wait on it. So there is kind of a fine line, even if as a staff you're hey, let's correct it later. A lot of times that's not a universal rule, right? It's a depending on the context and the situation. And so it's interesting, though, there has to be a lot of trust with the coaching staff to be able to, whether it's you guys at Westside, whether it's Nebraska, to be able to not only coach hard, but to receive correction from your head coach, right?
Especially in the moment.
Right? Because
he's teaching a lot of that staff too.
Right.
Yeah.
He's coaching them, not just the players.
100%.
That's an interesting topic. I do kind of want to come back to that a little bit here. Coming up on the show, we've got Mike Grimm, Minnesota Gopher play-by-play. We've got Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24/7 Sports, and we've got Tim May from Letterman Row to cover Ohio State. All that and more.
I'll ask Grimm. We may have Minnesota. We may not have them pegged right.
Ooh,
curious to see what we get from their offense.
Coming up next on Benning and Lulla.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Yeah, it was just the what we thought the 11 that we are anticipating going out there and starting. Didn't want to try to give out more or less. Just say the 11 guys we anticipate starting is hanging up in those guys' locker and kind of go from there.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. You hate when I do that. I don't know why. I don't know what. I don't know how else to bring a show back.
It makes me chuckle.
I don't know what else to do.
Guess what? I try not to judge because I don't want to do it either. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I don't know what to do. We are live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, the H&H Chevrolet studio. And we are on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities. We are brought to you by Pratt Dental.
That's closer to Western Nebraska.
Is that Western or is that Central? Where are we at?
It's 4.5 hours, so that puts it towards
North
Western.
Platte. So that's a little bit closer to Western there.
I mean, that's the Ogallala area.
Dr. Pratt is the only dentist in Nebraska that provides the BioClear method. As I mentioned,
Do I need that? How we doing today? I'm just teasing.
You love being on camera.
Yeah. Where is my Wi-Fi button? Can I turn that off?
The BioClear method and modern smile design can correct many aesthetic dilemmas in a permanent and less invasive manner than traditional treatments, such as crowns. Pratt Dental in North Platte, Nebraska, creating healthy smiles. Make sure you go check out our friends at Pratt Dental. One of the things we were talking about before Shane so rudely interrupted us with a break here.
Can't believe we got to pay bills.
I'm okay with it because I enjoy receiving a paycheck. So
I'm with you. It does have its pros.
Receiving a paycheck, Damon and I both pro.
does have its advantages.
No, we were talking about kind of the trust a coaching staff has to have in each other, because coaches by nature, tell me if this is fair or not, I think tend to have decent sized egos about what they do.
Typically alphas.
Because if you're unsure of yourself, typically that doesn't go well.
Yeah.
That's something that your athletes can pick up on. So a healthy ego is part of.
I smell weakness. What?
They will, man, especially high school kids. You got to watch out.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Those kids will sniff it out,
100%.
right? And so you have to have a decent amount of ego to do this well. But in order to receive coaching, you have to have some level of humility. And especially with a young staff like Nebraska's got, there's going to be a lot of coaching of the coaches. I think that's the thing maybe we don't talk about enough with Matt Rule, is how much he enjoys that part of the job.
Yeah, I think he loves it. That's a super point, because I'm one of those guys. I think coaches coach coordinators, coordinators coach position coaches coach the players. That's in a perfect world. That's exactly. Every time I look at Russell Wilson doing drills, I just chuckle.
You just imagine him on a plane doing like.
Well, I saw the Steelers logo and it was like squirrel. I lost my train of thought. But I think in a perfect world, that's kind of how it goes down.
Right.
And so he really embraces that. That's why I think with his staff, the way that he's put it together, he's stencilating himself against coaching departures and guys getting promotions, because he's rooting hard for promotions.
Absolutely.
He's not afraid to send the guy someplace else and then say, hey, come back and see me. And he'll take care of him, right? Like, hey, go coach online, get some experience doing that, and I'll come back and put you back in the fold. We could? Good, right? I.e., Coach Satterfield.
Yeah.
Like that's just what I think he's really good at doing, because he coaches those coaches like coaches want to coach players. You always want options.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
you don't want to be painted into a corner.
No, I think he always wants options. So,
and we saw that with Wager at the tight end spot.
Getting those guys better is not only good for the individual coaches, but it's good for Coach Rule too. That's the humility part, because you have to understand. It sets an advantage when you're part of a staff where nobody really wants your job, and you're doing it anyway. And I think he has a staff where, and don't ever undersell that, right?
Right.
Because I think that's important, to have everybody on the same page. But
and you kind of see the way that it's set up, right? So you mentioned it kind of insulates him from the dangers of people moving on, right? He wants people to move on. And you look
does he strike as the type of guy that gets caught off guard?
No.
Yeah. Now he's human, so I'm sure it can happen. But
right. But he is prepared probably to a fault.
Yeah.
Right. But you look at his coordinators, Tony White, Marcus Satterfield, those guys, a little bit older, not like old coordinators, right? But older than the rest of the staff, except for Foley,
mid-40s,
who's Grandpa Foley, love him. He just every time that
Can't be in two places at once.
every time that he talks, I'm like, that is every person's grandfather I've ever met.
Yeah, he's been at our high. He has been in every high school quite a few times,
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
Like the way that dude gets around the state is awesome.
Who sings that song, "Traveling Man"? Shane,
Rambling Man?
is that what it is?
I was born a rambling.
That sounds like the
man.
Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
That is the Allman Brothers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
You're miss you with that?
above my pay grade.
All right, fair enough.
I didn't even know rambling.
You didn't know that was a
between
thing?
rambling and traveling.
All right, fair
I
enough.
thought it was traveling,
Like
like Kyrie Irving
There's
when he handles
there's
the
the
rock.
Traveling Wilburys.
That's a different thing.
That's a different band.
The who?
I don't know.
The Traveling Wilburys.
I think it's
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre's.
Wilburys.
Wilburys? Wilkes-Barre's, Pennsylvania. That's my bad.
Okay. Let's cut it out. Not even sure what was going on over my head with the volleyball thing. Let's knock it off.
No, but you look at
knock it off, all right?
You look at like Satterfield, right? If Satterfield were to stop it,
We'll get it back.
I don't know. The tablet thinks we're trying to talk to it.
It's okay. Give it a second. Stop touching.
I'm gonna
it.
stop touching it. That's my bad.
Man.
So like if Satterfield or White move on, right? Which I think is, you look at coordinators first as guys that likely to stop. There we go. We're really good with technology here on the show. You look at Satterfield and White, and if those guys were to move on to head coaching positions or NFL coordinator positions or whatever, you can see kind of a natural progression on the staff of who could take over. Evan Cooper makes sense as a guy that maybe could take over as
Phillips
a
could take over for a night. And, we've seen it at the tight ends.
You look at even like Dvorak. I bet Dvorak ends up being a D coordinator someday. Yeah. Knighton's certainly going to end up being a D coordinator.
He could.
I would, if he wants to. I bet ends up being a D coordinator or maybe even a head coach someday.
Like, why are you talking about guys moving on? No, just for
it's for the purpose of coaching the coaches, right? And there's this line in a TV show that I really like. And it says something to the effect of good leaders know that the people around them will move on. Great leaders hope they do. Yeah. Right. Matt Rule hopes
kind of like that.
The people around them move on.
Ravi for slogans.
It's not mine. It's from a TV show. But it's not
one of those weird ones that they didn't know when to kill the series, or
no, they actually killed it early on purpose.
Billionaire suit sounds like one of those.
Ted Lasso.
Oh, I'm not a Lasso guy.
Really?
No, I followed the.
Did
Twitter
you watch
account.
it?
No. Everybody told me I would like it.
You would. It's like right up your alley in terms of like leadership and coaching and caring. Like it is.
It's a DB
right up your alley.
Like, do you think I want to watch myself on television?
Well, I mean, it's a white guy with a mustache, so not exactly you.
Give or take the mustache, according to some.
Let's get to Cody real quick. You wanted to talk some high school football. Cody, what do you have for us?
Commander Cody, what's up?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Well, hello. How are things?
Good. I think Shane's voice dropped about 6 octaves when he answered the phone. I was really shocked.
Yeah, he is officially gone from 1 to 2. But But anyway, let's move on.
I was yesterday was doing some traveling, so I don't know what all you hit on yesterday, but I'm guessing Scott was a pretty hot topic of conversation.
We actually didn't get to Scott.
We didn't really get to Scott. We were focusing on Benson much.
A little bit of West Side. I don't know why.
And North W West. Well, I saw your guy put up over 200 yards total offense playing QB at your favorite high school, Mr. Wilcoxon.
Oh, yeah. Hey, how about Little Shireman tonight, Friday?
Yeah. So is he the last?
I don't know.
It does seem like there's about 6 trillion, but I'm a big fan. So, I mean, do your thing. Hard to be better than his brother was in high school. Baylor was unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, since you guys got Tri-Cities now, got a name for you to keep an eye on.
Okay, talk to me.
Jesse Tesmer from Amherst went for 230 and 3 touchdowns on Friday night. Also a sub 1100 meter kid.
So when I hear Amherst, I think wrestling. Multi-sport guy?
He is a track and football.
Okay.
There we go.
Sub 11, huh?
We will keep it in mind, Cody. Appreciate the call. Coming up next, we've got our guy, Mike Grimm, Minnesota play-by-play here on Benning and Lulla.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Here's a handoff to Ibrahim, trying to turn the corner at the 5. He does, and he's in! He found the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota Golden Gophers. And a good job and a seal block by Nathan Bowe on that right side. 3 receivers set again. They're trying to hustle to the line of scrimmage. It's a quick handoff. This is Cam Wiley, and he sprints into the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We are joined now by Mike Grimm, the play-by-play announcer for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Mike, how are you today?
Hey, we're doing good, man. We're about 2 days away, 48 hours plus from opening night, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Mike, I'm curious. So just studying, obviously, and hope to see you in the booth. I'll be on the call doing color for radio. I feel like there's a potential for an identity crisis here. I'm looking at the skill level, the talent, the guys you brought in. Seems like your 2 or 3 best offensive players potentially catch the football. No way Minnesota has an identity crisis, is there? Am I off on that?
I think it's a good question. I really do. I think that you'll see the offense shift a little more to what I would call maybe a little more pass friendly. I don't think it's going to be
Air Gopher,
Mouse Jones or whatever. Yeah, Air Gopher. I don't think we're going to see 45 pass attempts unless circumstances dictate. That said, I also don't think it's going to be. I don't think the Gophers will finish. They'll have the most runs percentage of anyone outside the service academies as they have the past 2 seasons. I don't think that will be the case. You're exactly right. The best players on offense now reside at the quarterback spot and the pass catching spots. Now, that doesn't mean the running backs are no good. I like that group as well, but I do think when you have a quarterback that has, for the moment, the arm talent. Now, we have to see if everything else can come into play. And certainly there have been flashes from Ethan Kaliakmanis, including in Lincoln last year, that second half where he brought the Gophers, in a come from behind win. And then you look at, he was freshman of the week in the Big Ten, the final regular season week when he went into Madison against a really good Wisconsin defense. That was really the only good part of that Wisconsin team last year was how good their defense was because they didn't have much offensively ever going. And he threw for 319 yards in that game and had a game-winning touchdown drive with under 5 minutes to go and then started the bowl game off well. So we're seeing some flashes. Obviously, you got to repeat and do it to be considered, one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. But I think there's no question, just in watching him, you can see that he's got arm strength. You can see he can make all the throws on the route tree or whatever you want to call it. And now it's just a matter of if the coaching staff and the quarterback can get to the point where he's playing toward his ceiling, then this offense will absolutely take a shift towards they'll still try to be balanced, but I think they'll throw certainly more than they have in the past couple of years.
Mike, I'm curious. You mentioned Kaliakmanis' ceiling. How is his ceiling different from what we saw from what I think everybody agrees was a very solid Tanner Morgan, but not necessarily the most dynamic quarterback in the Big Ten? What does Kaliakmanis bring to the table that maybe Tanner Morgan didn't?
Yeah, well, just size. He's bigger. He has a stronger arm. The ceiling for Kaliakmanis is he can be an NFL quarterback if he progresses. He has that kind of arm talent. Now, the question is, as I said, there's a lot of guys that have big, strong arms that ended up not, making it because they couldn't read defenses, couldn't get the pre-snap thing right, couldn't do all that stuff. If the coaches and Kaliakmanis can get on the page where by where they were the end of last season, where he was making the right reads, making the right throws on time, on target, all that stuff, all those cliches you want to say. So the ceiling with Kaliakmanis is he could be an NFL quarterback. Morgan was in camp with the Steelers. He got cut yesterday morning. Now he still may catch on. The thing that Tanner has and had was, basically that guy played almost 50 games as a college player. So he had experience, he had some savvy, he had some know-how. He was, from an NFL standpoint, just too short and frankly didn't have, if you're in the NFL, you got to make that, 45-yard pass to the sideline, right? And not have some defensive back step in front while also them throwing a 65-yard deep ball at some point, not every throw. And Tanner probably was not his strength and his ceiling. The other thing with Kaliakmanis is he was a conference high hurdle champion at his high school and also was a 200-meter dash guy. So he can run. He didn't run much last year. I'll be interested to see how much they incorporate him into the running game this year. I think he can also make some off-schedule plays where if the pass rush comes, he can avoid the pressure, maybe a little better than Morgan. But again, all of that is just, right now it's just talk. We'll see, if Kelly McManus indeed can hit those ceiling and those benchmarks we just talked about.
Watched you guys for a long time. I think last year was one of the greater statistical anomalies. Very poor at getting after the quarterback, but very good on the back end in terms of yards given up. Very few big plays. You get teams off the field on third down. And maybe he'll have to be this year. Well, you got some new faces, right, and some inexperience. But Logan Redding and Anthony Smith and Richter along that D line. Is Rossi plug and play now as a defensive coordinator? Is he that good where you're ready to say plug and play?
I'm not sure they'll be as good as last year. That was a top, like in some of the major statistical categories, that defense was top 5, right? I mean,
without being able to get the passer to the ground, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the one thing with the sacks is teams really game plan against you now, particularly in the Big Ten. I mean, you look at some of these teams, they it's quick 3-step stuff, get it out of the hand quickly. And so, sacks just, I think, generally are down across the board. But you're right, Minnesota, I think, was 13th out of 14th in sacks. And that was a big emphasis for them here in the spring for sure. And certainly in this fall camp is to get more pressure, get more sacks. Like you say, bring the guy to the ground, not just pressure him. And so will they be as good as last year? I don't know about that. They are going to miss a few pieces. And the other thing that helped with the Minnesota defense, frankly, was that, as you mentioned, that identity of running the football. Minnesota won the time of possession almost all the time. I mean, Colorado was no good last year. We know that. Minnesota's defense was on the field for 28 plays in that game, right? So you're on the field for 28 plays. You win the game, I forget what it was, 49-7 or something. You're obviously not going to give up many yards. It's going to be one of those deals because the Gophers just handed the ball off and just took these long, drawn out scoring drives. And look, Colorado was there's a reason there's a new coach there and all that stuff. But those are some things, the Gophers, the defense benefited from the fact that Gophers did win the time of possession a lot. They weren't on the field all that much. You're right. They were very effective at getting off the field on third down. I do think there's some good fortune to that. There's certainly some skill to that. They need to keep that going. Their offense was very good on third down as well. In fact, I read, who knows what all these analytics say, but I read that the analytics suggest Minnesota was so good on third down, both offense and defense, that the stats show they should have been better than 9-4 last year. They basically had the Iowa game won, and Mo Ibrahim, in 5 years at Minnesota had 800 plus carries and fumbled going in for a winning field goal, with 4 minutes left that would have won that game. And, they had the poor game against Purdue and, but the analytics suggest maybe they should have been better than 9-4 based on some of those important numbers. But to ask your question, are they plug and play? To answer that question, I think Rossi's at the point now, a couple of things. One, everyone knows the system. There's the guys that are stepping in now aren't freshmen. They're not even redshirt freshmen. Some of them haven't played yet, but they know the system. They know the responsibilities, and I think that's important. And the other thing I would say is that Fleck is now recruited at a high enough level to where it's probably not a rebuild on defense when you're plugging in 3 or 4 or 5 new guys. There's enough talent and enough depth that I think they feel pretty comfortable with the guys you're putting in there for the first time. And, the COVID year one, the other thing, some of these guys that are playing for the first time this year probably were on schedule to play for the first time last year, but they had, 5th-year guys coming back with the extra COVID year, Thomas Rush and, Jordan Howden at safety, who's now with the Saints. And, there were guys ready to play in those spots last year. And in a normal non-COVID time, they would have gotten on the field. So I think they feel good about the depth. But again, it's all talk. We'll see how it turns out as the 2023 season unfolds.
Little hand ringing here. I'm on the impression that guys still got to go out and play. Something or nothing that Monroe has Nick Monroe has good familiarity with how Nebraska may play defense, having worked with Tony White.
I wonder how much that will impact. I think there's probably, some knowledge he can certainly pass on from, tendencies and schematic things, what they like to do against certain looks. I would think that those things have been passed on from Nick Monroe, the Gopher co-defensive coordinator now, who was at Syracuse. The Gopher coaching staff is really, I don't know if I'd call it uptight, but they're very, they believe this is a big challenge. It's an interesting thing because they haven't, like my opinion as a non-coach is I think this is the time if you want to play against, a Nebraska team with a brand new head coach who the guy can coach is now. Play them early. You don't want to get them, late in the year once they continue to learn and figure out the system and the culture and all that. The coaches, though, are kind of like, gosh, we'd like to play these guys, maybe a month in, so we've got some game film to know what they're doing. They don't have any idea. I mean, they're studying Temple film, I think, just because they're not sure what to expect and trying to be prepared for everything. So the coaches are relatively nervous about what Nebraska will bring on Thursday.
Mike Grimm, play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. We appreciate your time, Mike, and happy game week.
Have a great call, Mike.
Yeah, always enjoy it, guys. Thank you.
More of Benning and Lulla coming up next.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes.
Oh, it was good. I mean, it was.
The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Yeah, they were. You could tell who they were because when they came out there, they were extra smile. I don't know if it was black shirt or the single digi. You know what I mean? Because they kind of went hand in hand, but they were excited. You know, and it's cool when you ask the young men about it, the first time they ever got one, and they're able to rattle it off like that. So it means something to them. And it was exciting to watch those guys yesterday walk into the indoor and then see it on them and have a smile on their face because I know they know what it means.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, to our good friends out there in central Nebraska.
Omaha, right here in middle America.
Counting Crows.
Yeah. Although I did find out later that they're actually making fun of Omaha, so that's okay.
Well, a lot of people that haven't been here.
I thought it was Pauly Shore.
Who? Oh, the little dude with curly hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a Pauly Shore guy.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird. I mean, we've had some random references already this morning, but Pauly Shore may take the cake.
Yeah, I'm not a Pauly Shore guy.
Your Creed reference was a little out there, and you're not talking about Michael B. Jordan.
Although I love that Creed too.
You know, I still haven't seen 3.
Really? 3's okay. It's better than 2.
2 was pretty subpar.
I liked it just because of the nostalgia.
1 was fantastic.
1 was incredible. 1, it might be the best Rocky movie.
You know, so the funny thing is in Creed, the original, the OG, he wasn't even the best actor.
No, I mean,
the best actress was who turned out to be his wife,
Tessa Thompson.
She is
phenomenal,
unbelievably amazing,
and blew
She's
up.
pretty awesome.
Oh, you just like her because she's Valkyrie or whatever.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
She's
in Thor.
in the Avengers and Thor Ragnarok.
I mean, she was so good.
She's really good, and low key, one of Sly's better performances.
Yeah,
like he actually felt like a person and not a caricature in that movie, which is nice.
Yeah,
but no, I'm a big fan of the Creed franchise and the Creed band.
Okay,
basically anything with Creed, I'm good.
What was the one?
The Clone's not bad either.
So, for a long time, one of my this is when I was going through some things like kind of emotionally. My Own Prison kind of became my slogan. My slogan.
So that was the album they put out before they got really popular. It came out 96, 97-ish. And then Human Clay came out. That's where all the bangers were on that made the radio.
You said bangers.
And that was like 98, 99.
Hey, this is Ravi Lulla here for 93 FM.
That's your With Arms Wide Open.
Playing all the hits and the bangers.
Yeah.
I always think mashed potatoes, but when I hear bangers,
mash?
but I mean, knock yourself out.
You're a big British food guy.
No, that's enough of the food comments here. We got funny guys out there.
No, you did steer me right on some food this morning, though.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate
I got
that.
you. I got you. So, and I put this out on Twitter. With friends like him, who needs enemies? But my man, he literally said, "The Oklahoma Tyler, he strikes again." The fact that you haven't watched Ted Lasso is alarming. You probably watched some idiot make god awful sandwiches, but haven't watched the best show to ever be on TV. Like, that seems a little aggressive.
Yeah, but that's Oklahoma Tyler seems a little aggressive,
right?
Just
Like,
in general.
I don't even know why I laughed at that, but I couldn't believe he just like came out swinging. Not good morning, like nothing.
It's
just
pretty on brand though.
Like,
right? I mean, I don't know Oklahoma Tyler super well.
Oh, didn't he something?
But when you showed me that text, I was like, yeah, that feels like Oklahoma Tyler.
Listen.
I think he goes to my gym.
Does he?
I think so.
Well, a couple meatheads flock together.
I'm not really a meathead anymore.
Dude, this dude is a meathead.
I used to
You
be.
see him prowling the sidelines like some menace?
Well, yeah, he carries himself like a meathead. Too.
It's like,
you know, No, I'm a rehabilitated meathead.
Yeah.
I'm not really allowed to lift like that anymore.
Dude,
So
I think he has like a 22-inch neck.
Yeah.
Sometimes when he used to have to dress up for work, or he was in my wedding, like just to watch him try to button that top button.
Oh, I don't button my top button.
It made me hurt.
I go about an 18 and a half, 19, somewhere in there.
So Clinton, when we played, he's a 19.
Yeah. I'm between an 18 and a half, 19. If I have to button it, I probably got to go 19.
Yeah.
But usually what I do is I just cinch the tie so I don't have to do the top button. That's kind of my little secret that I do.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's the way to go because nobody can tell, and it still looks like you're all buttoned up and stuff, and it feels dramatically better.
17 and a half, 34. Woo, woo.
I can't tell you the last time I buttoned the top button on a
Yeah,
dress
it's
shirt.
a lot going on up there.
There's get some hairs cut too.
So were you surprised to hear? I don't know if you call it in agreement. He did like the question, but it seems like I'm listening to these people kind of break down this game.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Did you like my non-segue?
I followed you. It's all good.
I don't get it. I don't know I don't see what other people are
which is kind
saying when they haven't gotten behind this roster.
It's kind of funny because you're kind of the opposite with Wisconsin. Everybody seems to think Wisconsin's going air raid, and you're like, hey,
yeah, they're not.
Dummies, look at the roster.
They're not. I've watched them practice. They're not.
Also, Phil Longo uses air raid concepts in the passing game. He does not run an air raid offense.
He's not Cliff Kingsbury.
No. Go look. 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago.
He's not Sonny Cumbie.
North Carolina, 2 different 1,000-yard rushers.
Yeah, both those guys are in the league.
You can't do that if you're running an air raid.
And I'm just telling you, Malusi and Braylon Allen, and this isn't Badger Hour, but those guys are good.
No, Braylon Allen's maybe the best running back in the country.
I don't love him like everybody else does. No, I'm a tough critic because I also don't love Nebraska's running back room like everybody else does.
I don't either. I think Nebraska's running back room is fine. I think they are functional or can be functional with good line play, but I don't look at anybody in that room and say that guy's special.
Yeah, we got
Braylon Allen to me is definitely above that level.
We've got. I actually sometimes like Malusi better. Now, maybe not as a pro prospect, but as a better natural runner.
Well, that's fair.
But that's for another day.
But anyway, back to Minnesota.
So yeah, we've got some categories tomorrow as we start to really preview the show. Just as a little teaser, I sent these over to Ravi. Show and it will tell.
So what does that mean?
That means guys that have to show up, or if they don't, it will be very, very telling for how the season will go. Show and it will tell.
So guys, just an example here. So if Jeff Sims doesn't show up,
he would be the low-hanging fruit.
Telling.
He would be the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, because I want to get in the good stuff until we get to it.
The second category is now or never.
So guys, we like their talent.
Guys that if they don't get it done under these circumstances, is all she wrote.
So easy low-hanging fruit example.
I have one that may surprise you.
Like Thomas Fedoni?
No, but you could convince me.
Okay. We'll get to it tomorrow. I don't want to spoil the good ones. And then the third one.
And my last one is didn't see that coming.
So guys that kind of come off the radar.
To the good
or the bad.
Or to the bad.
So
because I think there's a few guys
that could go either
we
way.
Could be overvaluing that I would probably put in the show and it will tell category.
I've got one that I think most people are counting on that I think I put in that category.
Ooh, I wonder if it's the same guy.
I think it is.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. So that was a good. Is that my man Omar? Is that Omar Brown?
Oh, he loves Omar.
Saying like nah.
That is Omar Brown.
Didn't see that coming though. That we already kind of have. We think we know is like Deshaun Singleton, right?
Correct.
Kind of came out of nowhere. We're like, hey, what happened here?
You could also put that in the show and it will tell.
Yeah.
Because
if he's who they say
he is,
we're in good shape.
We're in good shape.
Fair enough.
So that's how that game
Okay,
work.
I like that. I wanted to get some definitions, so I'm glad but we'll flesh that out more tomorrow as we get into some real Minnesota game prep. But Michigan Lance.
It's also Volleyball Wednesday, too.
It is. So. I don't know if you heard, there's 90,000 people showing up to watch.
Will they get 90K?
It's sold out. I don't know if they're going to all show up.
Okay.
But it's sold out. I mean, I bet you will. It's not going to be that hot.
90 and 95K in that place.
That's crazy.
That floor looked pretty, didn't it?
You're certainly not like the people in the uppers are there for the experience. They're not going to be able to see anything.
The upper room.
Which I appreciate, though. Like, just put that record out of reach. I know Camp Randall doesn't hold 95,000. We're all good there.
Jang-a-lang, jang-a-lang.
So we just keep it out of reach of Wisconsin. Speaking of another team in the Big Ten, Michigan Lance on the line. Lance wants to talk about football week. What do we got?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's up, Lance?
What's up, Ann Arbor's finest?
Hey, man, you having a great week, aren't you, DB? Congratulations on the new show.
Appreciate that.
Ravi, congratulations on your new full-time job. And then Caleb should have been Super Six back-to-back, but congratulations to Caleb, for the 1 year. He should have been back-to-back Super Six, but hey, they at least got one right.
Okay.
Only got to get it right once, right, Lance?
I appreciate Robbie already put me on the hot seat. He came over during the course of the game, and he goes, I may have put something on Twitter that you're not going to like.
What did he put out there for you? So forecasting? What did he say?
No, I said Caleb Benning, best player in the state, full stop.
So I had to,
that's not I don't think that's I don't know. What do you want to call that?
That's not a hot take.
I don't know.
Not at all.
You'd be surprised.
There's some people that disagree with me, but those people are wrong, and it's fine.
But
right. Well, I mean, let's just look. What did he do? He played 2 games last year or 3?
A total of 3.
Okay, so he played a total of 3 games. Look what he did in those 3 games only.
Okay.
I mean, it's not hard to figure out. I know, DB, you're trying to play because you're the media guy.
I mean, he hadn't played
you got
football.
The media hat on, so you're trying to play close. But he's been the best player for a little bit now, for a while. So that's not a shock at all. But,
I mean, my dude hadn't played football in 2.5 months and then just dominated the state championship game like it was not a big deal.
Exactly.
We're just going to pretend like that was normal.
Right. Which solidified what I said last year, how he should have made Super Six.
Damon's so
before
uncomfortable
that.
right
I said
now.
that in August.
What else you
That's
got,
some
Lance?
ridiculous stuff. No, man. DB owes me money still for paying my son. Thanks a lot, buddy.
I hope you go broke. I do, because that's what you get.
That's ridiculous.
That's what you get.
That's ridiculous. No, it's all good, man. Hey, you guys are going up to Minnesota.
Yes.
So you feeling good, or what
I'm cautiously optimistic. We're going to get to something a little later. We have a colleague that said some things that we're gonna address, because so Nick actually thinks that there's a possibility Nebraska may get blown out.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that later on.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback.
Were you?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Listen, you do know if he gets up, he's going to pile on. So you don't know what's going to happen.
Fleck,
the kid's psyche if they're down a touchdown or 2.
100% PJ Fleck will pile on. You should have seen him in Indianapolis. He came out swinging, right? That was kind of where they had the little hit piece.
The Colt.
And I mean, he came out. He's
combative.
Right away, he talked to Adam Rittenberg. Like, he did 2 sit-downs with national guys.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like 8-10. He had barely been at Lucas Oil, right? The thing didn't really start until 9. And
he's getting after it.
Oh yeah, when he took the podium, he's like, "Look, man, my program isn't for everyone. I'm not going to apologize for that. Like it, I do think he will step on the gas if he can, it fits his personality. But
most definitely.
Yeah, so we'll get into that.
I'll tell you this, Ravi. Let me tell you about Ted Lasso. I'll give you the lowdown on Ted Lasso.
Let's do it.
The first season is great.
Yes.
The second season is good. The third season is about time to be over by episode 4 or 5. So it takes a slow dive after season 1.
I agree.
Season 2 held on. It was pretty decent. Yeah.
I agree. Season 1 is by far the best. Season 1 might be my favorite thing that's ever been on television. Like I
wouldn't say that, but yeah.
For me personally, I love season 1.
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
I agree that they do get progressively worse. I still enjoy season 2 and 3, but I definitely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I said, season 2 was good. I didn't say it was terrible. And then season 3, we could probably end this thing after episode 4 or 5. I said, it was okay. It didn't need to last that long.
I liked the ending of season 3, but there was some stuff in the middle that I was like, there's some other stuff I would have preferred they go.
This is one of the greatest segments ever. I haven't had to say much.
Well, you're just over there sitting uncomfortable while we're talking about how great your kid is.
So what do you think happens with Minnesota? Because I just get the sense, again, I'm not saying air raid, but I do think they will be more dynamic outside the numbers than they have been in the past. But this is a team historically, since Nebraska's been in the conference, that gets teams off the field on third down. They convert third downs. They're not very heavily penalized. They lead the league in fewest penalties, and they don't turn the ball over. Can they play it? Can they still all do those things and be dynamic? I'm curious.
Well, I think so, and they're especially going to be dynamic against Nebraska. Like, there's just certain teams that teams always want to get up and play for. And PJ Fleck in Minnesota, they heard what the comments that Nebraska fans have said about him over the last several years. So he has this circle every year, and he's going to show up. If he don't win a game, he definitely wants to win the Nebraska game. And when I watched them in the spring, everybody, it's just spring. Yeah, but you at least want to see some positive things out of spring. And I did see some watching their spring, their little spring
I still
deal.
can't believe they did that indoors.
Right, that like the optics was like, wow, like, man, y'all inside for real. Huh?
I know,
like,
I put that on my library. I've watched that a time or 8. Like, I'm obviously obsessed with film. I just think they're going to throw it around the yard a little bit.
Hey, man.
Caleb Manis he can be dynamic. He really can. He was the difference in the second half last year. Even though concept-wise, Minnesota, I'm not kidding you, they ran 4 different plays, and it was all the variation of the same play in the second half. They ran the ball, 18, 19 times in a row?
Do what you do well. And do what you feel like confident. People want to make it hard and all that. Hey, man, it's not that hard. Everybody's looking for the next guru offensive guy. Man, it's not that hard, man. Do what you do well and do what's working within the game. What's the point of changing if what I'm doing is working within this game? You don't have to run all 1,000 plays you got on your play sheet.
Yeah. Lance, appreciate the call. I'm sure we'll talk to you much more throughout the season.
Yeah, most definitely. We'll talk a little high school next time.
All right, thanks, buddy. That is Michigan Lance. I did want to get into more of that Minnesota stuff real quick here, because Lance brought up an interesting point with the do what you do well, right? Because when we were talking to Mike Grimm, he's talking about how the defense was helped a lot by the fact that they just weren't on the field very often.
Yeah, they had some studs too, though. Sorry, Marin.
They did.
That second,
without a doubt. But also, when you're only having to defend a certain amount of time, that helps your case for sure. Illinois had a very similar situation, right? Best scoring defense in the country, incredible ball control offense.
Yeah.
Right?
Complementary football, what Nebraska aspires to do.
What's that about?
Yeah.
So I wonder that even if, let's say they are more dynamic offensively, let's say that works. Is there any chance that even if it works, it kind of works against them as a complementary football team?
Yeah, see, I'm not sure yet. It takes really good coaching discipline.
Right.
Remember we were talking to, was it Scott Docterman we had on a couple weeks ago? And I think I asked Doc, I said, with such good kicking game, how do you not call a conservative game?
Yeah.
Right? Because you'd be fighting against tendency and smarts. Right? If you know you have 3 in the bag.
Yeah.
Or you've got a punter that can pin you inside the 10.
Why are you going
and
for it
his
on fourth
sleep?
down?
Does that? How do you fight? And he's like, hey, you don't, right? You lean into it, and you play to your strengths. I don't know if I would. So that almost cost us in the state championship.
Yeah.
Right. Anthony's thumb's a little bad. We stopped throwing the ball. We got a little conservative. We knew we were good with Alvano. And it almost caught up with us. So I'm always deathly afraid.
Sure.
I'm almost
to get conservative
to do that. But you're right, though. You do want to play to your strengths.
Right.
I just look at this roster.
Yeah.
You got two dynamic transfer guys in at the wide receiver spot. You lost. I just watched one of your running backs playing the CFL the other day with Potts. Edmonton was playing, I think, Ottawa. I do watch the CFL. No Ibrahim. You lost your top 3 backs. It's like, are you gonna ground and pound with Calic Manis?
Well, I think you're replacing 3 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
You're replacing a quarterback that, okay, maybe Calic Manis is more dynamic.
How unfortunate is Nebraska? Tanner Morgan plays in that game if Minnesota doesn't throw the ball deep from their own 35-yard line with no time on the clock. And Tanner Morgan takes the good shot, and he gets concussed.
Yep.
I'm in the booth, and I watch him literally wobble
to the
sidelines, then eventually to exit the field. Calic Manis comes out to start the second half, and all of a sudden the offense looks different.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just
if Tanner Morgan plays that whole game,
why do you even throw the ball?
I think there's a decent chance if Tanner Morgan plays that whole game, Nebraska wins.
Yeah,
I don't think that's crazy.
I couldn't agree more. I'm sitting there watching this thing unfold. I'm like,
so last year, Nebraska's an extreme example of this last year, but Nebraska had some dynamic capabilities with Trey Palmer on offense, right? A lot of times
by the way, you've been watching his preseason.
He's doing pretty good.
Welcome to the league.
That's why we thought he was going to be like a 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I blew that by 3 rounds.
I think the NFL blew it. I'm not sure that we blew it. I think the NFL blew it on that one if you're looking at the way he's playing right now.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess sometimes he doesn't catch the ball clean, but what are we talking about?
Especially at that speed, most of the time the NFL is willing to.
So here's the deal. I think he plays faster than he runs.
That might be true. That might be true.
I'm serious because some people were thinking like 4 threes.
Yeah.
He plays. He's
football fast.
He's a smooth strider, right? He doesn't look like a burner.
Yeah.
But
he just runs by people.
Yeah, he doesn't get caught.
But when you had Palmer last year and Thompson tossing it out to him, a lot of times those quick strike big plays worked against the defense, even though you scored, right? Nebraska's defense probably would have been better served.
You know what I go back to?
What's that?
Taylor Martinez in like 2012 and 2013.
Where he's ripping off 80-yard touchdown runs?
I'm like, listen, the ability to sustain drives is not where it's not developing here.
Yeah.
Like he's so dynamic, he can coach you into being lazy as an offensive coordinator. Right. And I think ultimately as conference play wore on and the competition stiffened, their consistency on offense.
Well, and as Taylor got banged up a little bit, it wasn't quite as dynamic.
I'm not saying turn down big plays, but how many times, and this is not coincidence, how many times have we heard Coach Rule talk about 4-minute offense?
Yeah. Well, because so many.
You think that's not like that, like he's chomping at the bit to get to use that. I want to ground and pound. I want to churn and burn so we can salt clock. Like I think he wants his teams to exude toughness and that mental fortitude.
Yeah, I think it's because, and we can get to this later. We've got the Sports Six-Pack coming up, but it's so hard to consistently count on big plays as your only form of offense.
But isn't it something how teams that get more than 5 a game or more than their opponent for explosive plays typically win?
Yeah, they really do. We've got the Zipline Sports Six-Pack coming up next on Benning and Lulla.
We will be back in 5 minutes. will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla, and we are going to get to the sports six-pack in just a minute, but first,
live from Hurrdat Sports Bar, man. It looks fantastic.
It does.
And in case you have a vehicle and it doesn't look so fantastic, you maybe need some repairs, or you're like me, thermostat light is probably has a lot to do with your oil change necessities.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Visit Dingman's Collision. You can easy, super friendly, accessible website. You can see the fam right there, dead square center at dingmans.com. Great locations, family owned and operated. And listen, their give back programs for what you can, you actually get to put a little pebble in the jar. You get to pick. Yeah. See, I've been there a couple of times, right? Where it's just like, okay. Yeah. What would you? So these are our give back programs that we're focusing on this month. Would you like to pick one? I was like, well, yes, I would. So portions of what we pay, Dingman's, goes to the community, which is always my favorite. So make sure you check out Dingman's Collision Center. It's just a weird deal. We just kind of have to ignore it. Hopefully, I mean,
yeah,
it's like Daniel-san. You just have to focus.
Before we get to the sports six-pack,
So annoying.
Did want to read some somewhat breaking news for Nebraska football. Tight end Eric Gilbert. This is from Caleb Henry. He's at KLIN.
We like Caleb.
He works with Jack Mitchell down there as well. This is from his Twitter account. Just released from LPD. Husker tight end Eric Gilbert arrested this morning for burglary at SJ's Liquor and Vape Shop. Value of items stolen was $1,672.07, which means he's in a bad range in terms of what charges are.
That is, you've crossed the
threshold there.
Yeah.
You cross $1,000, you're in some trouble. Variety of items stolen, including vape products, Delta 8 cigars, and lighters. So if we hear any more on that, we will keep you up to date. But that is what we know about Eric Gilbert so far. Obviously, hadn't heard about his waiver, but I imagine that is a moot point now.
Yeah, there's no question. It's something. It just seems like it was always something with him.
Yeah, even before he got here, right? I mean,
well, that and while he was here,
yes.
right? Like just.
But if you look at kind of his career getting to this point, he's one of those guys that there's always been something, right? And I'm not saying he's a bad kid. I don't know him. I don't know anything about his personal situation, stuff like that. But obviously, this is probably submarining any chance he had of playing, even if he got the waiver.
And some of these things just hit me different, just because I wish. And listen, I get this as part of the maturation process, but I just wish there's such a good combination of support staff and coaches that actually care about young people as the essence of what they do. Where if you're having some of these issues, like this is the ideal staff.
They're there to help. You have all the help you can possibly want.
It is the ideal staff. Yeah. Omar Hale's a guy that kind of oversees player relations, has a lot of experience in terms of bouncing back and understanding Coach Rule. He's built his staff that way. You have, I call them essential staff, but non-essential football staff. Right. His support teams,
the support staff,
are there for situations like this. Which is why the Betts news was
disappointing,
tough on me, because listen, Coach Rule told him, he said, listen, if you were my son, I wouldn't let you quit.
Yeah.
And that just hit me different. I'm like, okay, see, this is a guy that's practicing what he's preaching.
And he thinks about it in those terms, right? That's a whole different deal.
He's looked, it's just straight face. He said, and it hurt to hear, because I believed him with all sincerity. He said, I wish he would just trust me.
Yeah, because it seemed like it hurt him.
Oh,
the fact that
you have no idea.
The fact that he has seemingly worked really hard to get Xavier Betts' trust, and then still felt like Xavier didn't trust him, I think hurt him on like a personal level. And so you're right. Obviously this Eric Gilbert situation is very different, but if you're going to be successful, I feel like Coach Rule has eliminated a lot of the obstacles that guys face other places that keep them from being successful. And so, listen, there's some people that you can't help unless they want to be helped. And, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know Eric Gilbert as a person, but obviously this was a situation that Matt Rule couldn't have prevented. It
is.
Some guys do things that they're stupid things. It was a stupid thing to do. There's really no other way to put it.
One of my buddies, law enforcement, he's right. The distinction between shoplifting and burglary
is 1,000, right?
No, the dollar figure doesn't matter in a burglary. In shoplifting, it may come into play.
Okay.
But burglary, and I'm surprised he's not chasing his kid around. He's doing big things at the high school level. But Sean says dollar amount doesn't matter when it comes to burglary.
Gotcha.
It's a felony no matter what amount was stolen when you break in anywhere to steal anything. The dollar amount only affects simple theft charges like shoplifting and theft by unlawful taking.
So burglaries, you break into something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's in hot water regardless.
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously disappointing.
If you want your glass half full, he wasn't playing anyway. I don't mean that to be lighthearted.
No, but it's disappointing
But it's very disappointing on a personal level.
for the person, right? As a Nebraska football fan, it probably doesn't make a hill of beans worth of difference because I don't.
Yeah,
think
you're not going from 7 to 5 wins now.
Yeah, I don't think he was getting that waiver regardless. So, from a football standpoint, doesn't really move the needle. From a personal standpoint, you would have hoped for better, obviously. Real quick, let's get started on the sports six pack.
I don't even see that as really a distraction.
No, I mean, no.
Do you?
Because he hasn't really been, I can't imagine, part of what they were planning for.
Yeah.
So, let's, Shane, let's get started on the sports six pack. We'll carry it over in the next segment.
Time now for the Sports Six Pack, presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
Shane, Dear Old Nebraska Brew, that's even one you could handle.
Make sure you go out and check out Zipline Downtown Omaha Tap Room across the street from TD Ameritrade Park, a block from CHI Health Center, right between Slowdown and Film Streams. They also have the Beer Lounge out west at 3808 South 203rd Plaza. And don't forget about the Beer Hall in South Lincoln as well. All sorts of places you can enjoy a delicious Dear Old Nebraska brew.
You know who loves Zipline?
Who's that?
That hater, Oklahoma Tyler.
Listen, that Dear Old Nebraska brew is pretty tasty.
Yeah, he's a big
Sounds like
guy
him
too.
and I should hang out.
Yeah.
Why don't you crack one of those
you
open
guys
for
could
us,
day
Shane?
drink together, Shane. Crack one open.
Question number 1.
Cam Rising is listed as the starter in Utah's initial depth chart. If Rising is healthy, what is Utah's ceiling this season?
Wow, fresh off the ACL injury, we've already seen it affect one of our very own with a guy like Nick Henrich.
Mm-hmm.
No black shirt, by the way, for Nick.
Yeah, I think we might get to that later.
Okay, you call that a tease?
Yeah, a little radio tease.
Because
that was kind of your hesitation with Utah before.
I'm still a little concerned about his mobility early, but the fact that he is playing and he's such a gutty
gamer. He's a gamer.
He's Anthony Rizak.
He is. That dude is a gamer.
That's who I compare Rizak to. Not to talk about Anthony again for the 13th time this morning, but I still think that's an 8-win team. But I am happy he's playing. If he was healthy, it'd be completely different.
What's your ceiling if he was healthy?
They could get to double. They could win the Pac-12.
If he was 100% healthy,
they could win
or
the Pac-12.
is, I think they can get to the playoff.
Yeah.
Whittingham says this is his best team.
Whittingham is
one of my favorite coaches.
He's a great coach.
He's so good at what he does.
He is a great coach.
Incredible at what he does.
Yeah. They definitely could win the Pac-12.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if SC doesn't get better defensively.
Yeah, I mean, they beat him up last year.
Yeah.
Shana, let's get number 2.
Question number 2.
Which Big Ten transfer quarterback are you selling on?
Ooh.
Like, which one are you out
That's
on?
a good one.
There's a lot to choose from.
That's a really good question.
You want me to go first? Do you need a minute?
No.
Okay.
Because he's not healthy right now, even though I think he and Hudson Card would have made the biggest difference, I will sell on McNamara.
See, that was my sell too, but it was less to do with the injury and more to do with I still don't think Brian Ferentz is very good at what he does.
I actually think if McNamara is healthy and
I think
functional,
he helps.
He definitely helps that football team.
But I don't
because I think he's a good quarterback.
But I don't know how good the offense can be because I think in general there's limitations there outside of McNamara.
Do you know what I was gonna sell on?
Who's that?
It's gonna surprise you.
Who?
Tanner Mordecai.
Ooh, I'm not sure there either.
I'm not all in either.
All right,
although I do like Wisconsin, it's more about their surrounding pieces.
More sports six pack coming up next on Benning and Lula.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. We are in the middle of our Zipline Sports six-pack. Shano, let's keep it cracked.
Okay, give me a second here.
Okay, I'm going to give you a second. So my guy Mike, he said hopefully he takes it one step further. Hopefully this wasn't centered around the potential ruling and it pushed Arik over the edge. Which I hope that wasn't the case, but
it would make sense.
Sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. And if you felt desperate, when you lose hope, man, I've said this 100 times, when there is no hope, the consequences don't matter.
Right. Yeah, if you already feel like you're at rock bottom, then
now
what
I don't
consequences?
I'm not confirming or denying.
Yeah.
He's
Or
asking,
condoning.
He's asking if that was potentially the case, but it does bring up an interesting point about, emotional and mental health, which I think was clearly something that he was fighting.
For sure, yeah, and it's a fair point. It's just something hopefully that wasn't a factor, but I'm sure we'll find out sooner or later.
It's like most things. I'm sure it's something that he'll approach in his presser.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Yeah, he's pretty forthright.
All right, Shane, let's keep going on the 6-pack.
I'm on number 3, right?
Yes, sir.
I tell our Little League team, Shane, if not Little League, I tell our youth football team, if you can count to 3, you can play in our defense. So if you can count to 3, you can produce our show.
He's got to count to 6 here. So.
My back pedal isn't very good.
Yeah, you got to flip those hips.
I could teach you to retreat. A lot of guys don't use the back pedal anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is more likely, Brock Purdy really is the type of guy he showed last year, or Russell Wilson returns to previous form?
Gosh, I actually think both things are true.
Really?
I think Purdy is a very functional NFL quarterback and will only get better. You could get Brocktober in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's kind of I don't know, winner may be a little strong, but he is better
than his physical tools would indicate.
Just a feel-good story.
Yeah.
But I also think Russell Wilson returns
better than
more
last
to
year.
form. Yeah.
Not like MVP candidate,
Denver,
but
listen, Denver scares me a little bit if I'm a Chiefs fan. You can poo-poo it.
But Sean Payton knows what he's doing.
Get the deal done, although he's just Mike McCarthy 2.0, really. I mean, record-wise.
Yeah, he really is.
Missing the Super Bowl, but same winning percentage.
No, Peyton and McCarthy both have a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, they do. That's right.
Yeah. They both have exactly one.
They're the same. They're the same.
They're
guy.
very close. Yeah.
So that's okay. And Peyton gets a lot of love, and that's cool because he is kind of a quarterback
guru
whisperer a little bit. But I think Denver's dangerous. They have a fantastic roster.
Is really good.
They've got a really, really good defense. They petered down the stretch last year. I think emotionally they broke down.
Yeah. I think they realized Wilson wasn't going to give them what they needed.
It was not a good last month for them.
Yeah.
But Denver's a team, much like the Steelers, I think, are better than the experts think.
So you're buying both Purdy and Russ.
I'm buying both.
All right. What's next?
Question number 4.
Can USC play enough defense to be a legit national title contender?
God, they're so talented, aren't they?
Because that's the X factor, right? Because their offense is otherworldly, just like every Lincoln Riley offense we've ever seen. Caleb Williams might be the best quarterback he's ever had. Is that fair? Is that too aggressive?
No, I'm vibing with you.
I think I like him better than Baker. I like him better than Kyler. Offense is not going to be a problem. They've got playmakers all over the place. That 5-star kid whose name is currently escaping me, that was
Branch?
already tearing stuff up.
Yeah.
In week 0. The defense, obviously a concern. Are we there yet on Alex Grinch? Maybe not be good. Might not be good at this.
So they put all those guys on the move and they try to gap you out. You have to be disciplined.
And they got a bunch of transfers to try and help them out. They got Bear Alexander.
I mean, he's a good coordinator, I think. His guys are too light in the britches.
Yeah.
He needs a little bit more physicality. Will they play good enough defense? I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think so.
I think there's teams like
Utah. They're gonna have a hard time stopping the run.
There's going to be teams like Utah that are hyper physical that are going to smack them in the mouth, and they're not going to be able to take it.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I think it could be one of 4 teams
in the Pac-12.
If UCLA gets good quarterback play, they're a dark horse.
Yeah.
I like Utah. Could be Oregon. Could be SC. There's probably those 4.
I think I'm a Utah guy. I love Utah.
Don't sleep on Oregon State either.
Yeah, especially with DJ.
They may have the best coach of the bunch.
They might, and they got. Well, I'm not taking anybody over Whittingham, but. I'm just not. I love Whittingham.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell me. He's a non-household name and one of the few guys that was retained in that vaunted 2017-18 coaching hire carousel.
Yeah.
I think only 4 of the top 25 are at their
schools. Yeah.
It's a staggering stat.
It was a rough cycle.
Yeah. For some big time,
for huge
in
jobs.
terms of names,
huge
coaches.
jobs. Shane, what do we got?
What player on offense for Nebraska are we not talking about that will have the biggest impact?
Under a radar guy. We're obviously talking a ton about Sims, talking a ton about
that's a good one.
Running back room.
You got one?
I've got 2. I don't want to
say offense, defense, or both offense?
Just offense. Or both. Yeah, this is just an offense question.
Under the radar.
Just guys that aren't getting a lot of run.
I'll give you one. I hope he gets the first carry Thursday against Minnesota. Give me Barrett Liebentritt.
Ooh, so one of mine's the other guy at that position, Bonner.
I like Bonner. I like Borkature. I like Bonner. I think quietly, even without the Gilbert deal,
it's a good tight end room.
I think so too.
Yeah.
People are skeptical.
Fedoni and Borkature, I like both a lot.
And here's another
especially
one.
Fedoni's healthy.
Luke Lindenmeyer is a good player.
Okay, there we go.
And they like him a ton. And it's not just because he drilled us in the screen game a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They love Lindenmeyer.
Yeah.
They like Borkature a ton. Fedoni's been a guy. Bonner has versatility. I'm not poo-pooing that tight end room at all. It's not as star-studded.
No, but really, unless Fedoni is what we think he can be.
But really good players.
If Fedoni's what we think it can be, then all of a sudden it elevates that from really solid group to potential really dangerous group. My guys were Bonner, and then you named the other one, Borkature.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 guys. I think Bonner could have the Jaheim Bell role in this offense that was really good at South Carolina. Bell now at Florida State after leaving South Carolina. Super versatile guy. Line up at tight end, fullback, H-back, wherever
I thought it
him.
was very interesting. You go back and watch the spring game because I'm kind of a degenerate. But, you see him come across in motion on those wham blocks. Mm-hmm. They throw it to him out of the
kind of that the Brewington block is what we like to call it.
And then they hand it to him on, veer.
Yeah.
And dive. It's like there's a lot of versatility in his game.
I think so, too. I think you could see – listen, I'm not talking about, 1,000-yard rusher or anything like that.
I'm with you.
But I think he could be a impactful offensive player that we're not necessarily talking about a ton.
I don't hate that idea.
All right, last one, Shano.
Question number 6.
What is a sports memory that has left you with an affinity for a random team?
So something. Here's an example. This isn't my answer.
I got it.
Oh, you good?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
Random, huh?
So I'll give you an example. This is not my answer. While you're thinking,
I got one.
You got it? All right.
Yeah, because I don't cheer for the team, even though I'm.
But you kind of like them.
I mean, I'm American.
Yeah.
So the Women's World Cup.
Okay.
With Brandi Chastain.
Oh yeah, sure. What is that? 99?
Iconic moment.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was actually playing in that World Cup. So I was kind of low-key cheering for Canada.
Yeah, sure.
But that's probably the moment that I can think of because I'm not nothing against the women's national team.
But you're not plugged in.
But yeah,
normally.
But that got my attention, and it's kept it.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good one. The one that came to mind for me was the 95 ALDS with the Mariners Yankees. Just having, because I'm a Red Sox fan, right? But I always kind of like the Mariners.
Yeah.
And part of it's Griffey growing up.
That's weird.
Why?
Because I have them playing in the World Series.
Right. That's why
they're currently in first place.
That's why when you said that, I was
Braves, Mariners, come on down, baby.
The Mariners are on a heater right now, but I have this image of Ken Griffey Jr. scoring from first to home on that Edgar Martinez double to knock the Yankees out of the playoffs. And that's one of my favorite sports moments, period.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Ken Griffey Jr. is my favorite player that has never had to do with anything of a team that I cheer for.
Yes.
I never liked the Mariners.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Reds. but Griffey was I wanted to be Ken Griffey Jr.
He was iconic, right? Always was a Griffey guy. I've got some of those like baseballism Griffey gear, like the hats and stuff.
You know another weird one?
What's that?
This is super random, but I'm a big work done guy.
I love work done.
Like
love
I can't
work
stand
done.
FSU. I don't like anything.
See, I like FSU, but you've got some personal history there. So.
But I'm a big work done guy.
Yeah.
So there's a few of those guys that I like for no reason.
It's funny because sometimes you see have these moments in like formative years, and then you kind of just hold on to like.
I love the way work done ran. I'm still
never got hit square.
I go back to
Can I give you
FSU Virginia on a Thursday night with Barber going against Tiki Barber.
What's
in
that, Shano?
Charlottesville?
Real quick, 86 Mets. I mean,
you're a good guy.
Get out of here.
Are you a good guy?
Strawberry and those guys.
Get out of here.
I could never just hate.
We had Daryl Strawberry in the studio
Yeah,
once, and Shane almost melted.
Doing it with the Red Sox guy. Yeah, that's
like,
rude.
He's like that Irish fancy butter.
We've got Mike J. Schaefer coming back on Benning and Lulla.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Well, it's great when you line it up, and because you don't even really notice it until you get out there and you got the punt teams all black shirt, or just about all black shirts. So, that's really cool. And the number of single digits that's out there that's playing, because we try to always Coach Rule's always wanted to get the best players on that team. So you look out there and you got 0, you got 2, you got 4, so that 6. So you got a bunch of guys out there on that punt team that make you feel really good that the peers think that they're the best players on the team. So that's always really powerful for us on special teams.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Still waiting on our guy Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Catching up on some of the YouTube comments. Travis with our USC talk from the Sports Six Pack says, "Here's my daily message that Alex Grinch is trash and USC is going to learn next season if he's still the DC." Our friend college football professor says, "Go Beavs."
I'm
there. A lot of people are. A lot of smart people are high on Oregon State.
Keep an eye on Oregon
with
State.
DJ Uyunglele. I always feel like I throw an extra syllable in there, but I think I got
Ungalele.
It right. Ungalele?
Yeah.
Shoot.
You know who would know about that?
Who?
Mike J. Schaefer.
Oh, we got Mike J.
Oh, I appreciate Mike J. Schaefer for joining us today here on the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Schaefer, how are you?
I'm good, but I think Shane has too much confidence in my ability to say DJ Uyungalele.
So I am throwing an extra syllable in there.
I don't know how to say it. Don't ask me. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, DJ, the quarterback.
That's kind of what I did yesterday. I was gonna try and say it, and then I pulled the ripcord at the last second. I bailed out on it, but we're gonna try and get it right.
Yeah, when I know a name and I know I can just like Ethan Calicomanis, I can just say that. That's not a problem. Other people are like, they struggle with it. But if it's a name that I know I'm going to struggle with, I'm going to just stop short. I'm going to talk around it. I'm going to
That's how I am.
Hey, so where was that yesterday? I was telling Robbie how you dropped a couple of misplaced expletives on me, and he couldn't believe that a guy as nice as Mike J.
I'm a colorful character. Isn't that what you say?
Yes.
Colorful. I think I like
colorful
that.
Character.
Colorful character.
Mike J was fired up yesterday. Hey, so Schaefer, obviously with the Gilbert news breaking, we'll panic. I always like context and perspective. I actually like Nebraska's tight end room with Fedoni and Borkature. I'm a big Luke Lindenmeyer guy. I like Janarian Bonner, his versatility. Liebentritt can help out. We'll see what happens with Applegate as he's kind of showing some flashes. What say you about the development in that room?
I wasn't planning on Gilbert playing for Nebraska at any point. I don't know if it was this show. It might have been this show a couple of weeks ago where I was like, what happens if he doesn't get the waiver? I don't think he'll ever play for Nebraska. And, we're at the point where he's not going to play for Nebraska, and we don't even know about the waiver. And it doesn't look like it was going to go Nebraska's way anyways with the waiver. So
it was trending in the wrong direction with a couple of the dual school transfer guys so far around the country.
But to kind of what you were saying there at the beginning, like I have a lot of Nate Borkircher stock. Like I think he might be Nebraska's best tight end. And I'm excited to see what Thomas Fedoni can do as well. I think that's a good pairing. I mean, I think those are two guys that you can utilize on the field in ways to put different athletes out there to stress defenses in different ways. So I like the pairing of Borkircher Fedoni. That's not a big concern of mine. Honestly, I think the tight end room is fine. Like you mentioned, they have some decent depth, and they have some guys that do some different things that they can utilize different ways. I think Marcus Satterfield can find different ways to get the ball in those guys' hands. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if either Borkircher, who I think it'd more likely be him, or Fedoni turns into somebody that's very utilizable in the red zone. Someone that, if this team is able to run the ball a little bit, they get inside that kind of like 12-yard window into the end zone. You run some of those play action plays with the tight end. Like I like Borkircher and Fedoni in those situations. I think you need a bigger body player to be able to take up some space and can box out a defensive back if necessary. So I think they have those in those tight ends. I've never really been expecting anything of Gilbert. Even before the waiver was trending in the wrong direction, I don't know. There was something that just felt off about it. And so it's easy to say that now, but I feel like I was pretty consistent with Nate Borkircher kind of being the guy all throughout the offseason. So I don't know that it changes any outlook I have for the season or the position group.
Schaefer, I'm curious with the tight ends there. Obviously, Fedoni has the physical talent that's kind of top of the room there. What are the chances in your mind that we actually see some of that potential come to fruition, or are you mostly counting on Borkircher and hoping Fedoni can fill in some of the cracks here and there?
I think it's entirely possible we see the guy who is rated the number one tight end in the country. I mean, the reason we haven't seen him has been sort of out of his control. It's injuries. What has been in his control, his attitude and effort. You hear Matt Rule speak really highly of how, Thomas Fedoni's really attacked things. You hear Josh Martin talk about how this is a guy that since he's been at Nebraska, all you've seen Thomas Fedoni do is put in work. So he's certainly giving himself the best opportunity to go out and maximize the reps that he's going to get on Thursday. And I think we should also acknowledge it's probably going to be a bit of an emotional day for Thomas Fedoni. Like this is a guy that hasn't played college football, that has clearly the driven player that he is, wants to go out there and prove that he is as good as he was as a recruit. And so I don't know that he's a guy that I would bet against. In any situation. But I also, just kind of like Gabe Ervin and everybody else, I kind of need to see it a little bit. And I want to see what it looks like, because what I saw in high school was the best athlete on the field playing wide receiver, didn't really ever have to block anybody. That's not what he's going to be doing as a tight end at Nebraska. He's going to have to play a little inline. He's going to have to be able to move some defensive backs and help seal the edge and all of these different things. So, but he could also be a valuable resource for them as a pass catcher, something that this team certainly could use, especially early on against Minnesota and some of these teams.
Schaefer, we're going to do this tomorrow, Ravi and I, as we kind of get preview heavy with Minnesota. I've given him 3 categories. Okay.
Oh.
Show, and it will tell.
Oh, is this like Jeopardy style? Like you got little fancy names and everything?
You don't have to answer in the form of a question.
Oh, that's good, because I screwed that
up. You can put a player or players in this category. Okay, so show, and it will tell. Now or never, and didn't see that coming, good or bad.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Now or never is always a favorite of mine. I write a lot of those in the off season.
Okay, now or never.
Yeah.
Who's a player that you have on the clock as somebody that's primed, and if it doesn't happen now, it probably isn't going to?
I'll give you one on each side of the ball, including
like
someone that you and I were just talking about yesterday on the phone. We'll start with that one. If Nick Henrich doesn't really cash in this year, he's going to get passed up in that linebacker room, and he's going to get passed up probably for guys who are a little bit better athletically. Even though I still want to believe the guy I watched play at Omaha, Burke, is out there. The guy that
wasn't
was
he
basically
something?
He was like he was in the other team's huddle.
Oh,
I mean, it really was. His instincts, his ability to read and react, and the athleticism that he possessed to be in the right spot at the right time, like it felt like almost preternatural to see that. And we haven't seen that version of Nick Henrich. And so when he got a single-digit number, I was pretty intrigued by that, which I don't want to fall in the habit of caring about this as much as it's being put out there, because I think it's more of a marketing thing than it is something else.
I don't know, man. Did you hear Foley yesterday talk about the special teams in single digits?
I don't know. I don't want to do this. I don't want to assign extra value on something that has nothing to do with what happens during.
All right, head in the sand. It's all good.
All right, Shane.
That's me. People don't trust me. People don't have to follow me.
Okay, so listen.
They don't have to go to the depths of hell with me. They don't have
Were
to
you
do it.
surprised that the single digit was awarded, but no black shirt?
So yes, but I think we'll probably get more of an explanation from Brule on that at some point. It seems like it's really going to be a week to week with who the black shirts are based on how they match up with the team that they're facing. So it could just be a thing where there's a certain number of black shirts, and then it's, based on the matchup, who's going to get more of the snaps, or the expected player could end up with a black shirt that week at practice. But so Nick Hendricks is one of those guys, and I'll give you the other on offense. And I mean, this one, it's been this for me the whole offseason. I've been the stick in the mud here. It's Gabe Ervin. Like, if Gabe Ervin isn't Nebraska's best running back this year, I don't know if we need to do another offseason of, you got to watch out for Gabe Ervin. Gabe Ervin's having a great spring, and he's an outstanding kid, and I feel like I'm such a jerk when I talk about him this way. But it's like, I need to see Gabe Ervin be the best running back on the field, and I need to see it happen Thursday. And otherwise, I'm just going to get disinterested again, because at no point when he was a freshman was he the best running back on the field. And he had a little bit of momentum last year before an offense that likely wasn't going to feature him that well anyways. And he fell to third or fourth on the depth chart. So I need to see what it is about Gabe Ervin that has everyone fired up in March. But I need it to happen in August and September.
I get the feeling Ravi's in that category as well, but I don't want him to shoot his shot today.
Gabe Ervin?
Let me ask you something, because Ravi said something to me yesterday about Deshaun Singleton that we may use for Gabe Ervin too. He said if Deshaun Singleton, plays well, it will be a proof of concept in terms of how Nebraska can look at and develop talent. Is Gabe Ervin potentially a proof of concept?
Could be. It could be. It could also just be catching somebody at the right time, which is what I think.
That's all we've heard since they've been here, right?
Well, and so with Deshaun Singleton, I mean, that was a guy that they liked a lot last year. It just hadn't happened for him yet. Like he's transitioning from junior college to the Power 5 level. Like he just wasn't at the point where he was going to help them enough. But that didn't mean they didn't like what he was doing behind the scenes. And I think Gabe Ervin could be in that same category where you're just catching those guys at the right time in their careers for them to really sort of take off. And then you're blending it with your teaching, your development, what you want them to do. So it's always a blend. It's not going to be one or the other. But I think that they would both fall in kind of a similar path right there where, this staff is inheriting a guy. Blaise Gunnerson could be that too, where it's just someone that you're getting at the right stage of their career, Nash Hutmacher. But it requires everything. It requires them to put in the internal work. It requires them to have put themselves in this position. And it requires the new staff to come in and give them the opportunity and maximize what they're able to do. So I hesitate if someone that we're not expecting comes out and looks great. I hesitate to just be like, well, see, Matt Rule just knows all the answers. It's not, you guys know this about football. It never quite works that way. You got to get a lot of effort from the player to put themselves in a position where they can do that.
You know what's interesting about this whole exercise, which is why I'm excited for tomorrow too?
Yeah.
See, I would have put Gabe Ervin in the show, and it will tell.
Okay.
But I'm listening to Schaefer Now or Never, and I'm like,
but if he doesn't,
I could see that too.
If he doesn't perform this year, he's going to get passed up by somebody. I mean, there's Emmett Johnson's coming. Like there's Kawan Lacey's going to be here next year. Like there's talent in that running back room that's going to take a job.
I'm telling you, man, you guys better stop throwing dirt on my man Anthony Grant. I'm gonna get it's gonna.
Well, I'm not using Anthony Grant as a now or never because he either plays or he's done after this year. So I mean, he's a literal now or never because he has no
kind of the definition of now or never, right? We're talking with Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question that I asked DB in the last segment. Who is a player on, and I'll ask for each side of the ball for you. I only asked DB about offense. Who's a player on each side of the ball that we aren't really talking about very much that you think is going to have a significant impact this season?
Defense, it's hard because I feel like we've talked through a lot of the pieces.
We have. We certainly
that
have.
are going to be valuable. So any name.
Although, can I throw one out there for you for defense?
Yeah, sure.
I feel
I'll
like
take,
a guy.
I'll take a help. I'll phone a friend.
Let me just ask you the question and answer it for you, Schaefer.
Thank you. I love this game.
I'm an incredible interviewer. So a guy that we didn't talk about for seemingly like 4 or 5 months, but we talked about a lot in spring, and now we're sort of talking about again. Feels like it was Chief Borders. We forgot about him for like all summer, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, Chief Borders. He's good. Oh, you guys forgot about him?
I kind of agree with that. 100%,
like we just forgot about Chief Borders, and now it's like, oh, by the way, he's starting. He's got a black shirt. Whatever, it's gonna be fine. Like, does that make sense to you? Like, we just sort of forgot about him. He did the pole vault thing, and then we're like, oh yeah, Chief Borders plays football too.
And it was weird to hear Coach Rule talk about his affinity for him because he talked about like this magnetic presence. He didn't really
talk football.
Didn't talk football.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys remember, all the way back, like MJ Sherman referred to Chief Borders as his sunshine.
Yep, he
and
did. In that
there was
first,
multiple players that talked about Chief Borders in the spring, but they talked about like what an inspiration he is and being around him day to day in the weight room, and like from a motivational aspect, it seemed like he had a really strong effect on a lot of those guys in the locker room. We didn't really hear about what he was doing on the football field though. And so that might be kind of why he just sort of snuck up into this position where he's going to be playing a lot on Thursday. I don't know if that's the route that I would go because I don't know what to expect that he's going to give you. I guess I'm sort of looking at that defensive line picture. Like Kai Wallen's a name that's at the back of the depth chart. That is someone that, I think Rule spoke of it or Tony White spoke of it. I mean, this is a guy that put on a bunch of weight once he got to a college, lifting program. He, I think, has quietly been pretty steady as a defensive lineman. Like he's one of those guys that I think isn't going to have a huge impact in terms of stats, but could be a really helpful piece because he could prevent, a big drop off when he comes in that second level. Like he can give you production from there. And Kai Wallen's one of those guys we forgot about in this defensive line class that they are marveling about, guys. Like this group they put together in 2023, they're really excited about it. Like I want to see if a guy like Riley Van Poppel plays past his 4 games, if he's able to break into the depth chart at all, things of that nature. Like they've got some really intriguing pieces along the defensive line for the future. And I think Kai Wallen is one of those, but we don't talk about him a lot. So I guess my answer there is probably Wallen.
What do we make of? Let me give you another one because he may crack the starting lineup. I think he came in as kind of most people thought defense. Mm-hmm. What are you making of Justin Evans Jenkins?
Yeah, this is a guy that
doesn't fit the prototype.
It's wild to just see that depth chart on offense, and you're looking at some of these names, and it's like, well, there's a true freshman. There's a true freshman. There's a guy that, when he came here, nobody really quite knew what Justin Evans Jenkins was, but Frost loved him. Like that was a guy that Frost wanted in their offensive line room. And it seems like Matt Rule has inherited that affinity for Justin Evans Jenkins. Like this might be a guy who is a future starting offensive lineman for him that I wouldn't have considered saying that going into the spring of this past March. So he's certainly a guy that I think has turned some heads and has earned some attention. I know recruits, they use him for when they bring in some offensive line recruits. I know he was a host for like Caleb Pyfrom and a handful of other guys. And it seems like he's pretty high in their internal, view over there. And if there's an injury or two, Ben Scott has to be moved out of there. I wonder if we're not going to see Justin Evans Jenkins move in at that center spot.
I'm just happy to see. I called it surefire. I said he'd be a starter in 2 years. I don't know if I'll be right about that, but you talk about freshmen. How about Sam Sledge?
Yeah.
That's one guy I
love.
I thought he was a center of the future. I thought he would just take over right after Ben Scott. You get Sam Sledge. I mean, that was, for my money, that was the best offensive line get they had in last year's class, and the one that I thought was going to be the quickest to playing time. So his name being on there, not a big shock, but that internal, the interior offensive line, like there's some interesting pieces in there, and then they're bringing in this big offensive line class. They got some other guys they want as well.
Schaefer, we're going to put your feet to the fire here a little bit. I'd like to get a season record prediction out of you, and I'd like to get a prediction for the Minnesota game as well.
All right. So this is how it's going to work.
Okay.
I have two predictions, and they're based entirely on the Minnesota game. So we'll start with that one.
Okay.
I think Nebraska beats Minnesota 17-14 on Thursday.
Okay. Got a
low-scoring game.
Love it.
I think there's a lot of field position punting, run the clock from both teams as they try to figure out their offense.
Game ball goes to Buschini.
It could be a game ball goes to Buschini type of game. And so because of that, I have Nebraska at 7-5. Now, if they lose that Minnesota game, 6-6. So that's kind of like my toss-up game.
Okay.
So I like Nebraska to start off pretty well this year. If they're able to get by Minnesota, I could see them at 4-0. And then I think it gets kind of tough with that Michigan-Illinois run in there. I think October could be tricky for them. But I think this team's going to a bowl game. I don't think it's going to be a great bowl game, but I think they're going to have some success this year.
Listen, when you've been in a drought, all bowl games are great bowl games.
I don't know. If you ask the folks at Husker 24/7 about open air press box in New York City a couple days after Christmas, you get a lot of tears. Not me, because I won't be on that trip, but the two that would, they don't love it.
Hey, Schaefer, let me get you out of here on this. Do you get the sense, and maybe not so much now that the game is here, but are we conceding Minnesota to look ahead to Colorado?
I'm not. I mean,
Do you get that? Do you get that feel?
I can't imagine the idea of conceding this game. I mean, like, Colorado is Colorado. Like, the Dion thing, that's all going to be there. Minnesota is a team that has kind of like pulled your pants down, beaten you up, taken your lunch money, has kind of like mocked you these last couple years. If you're a player,
I can't put my arms down.
Yeah, if you're a player in Nebraska's locker room and you've been in this program for a couple years, Minnesota should be one of those teams that you want to come out and physically take it to, because you haven't been able to do that for several years, and you have some ugly, disheartening losses to this program. Mm-hmm. If you are looking past Minnesota and you're inside the walls of that stadium, what in the hell are you doing?
Day by day.
Seriously.
It's right there on outside the stadium, day by day.
Yeah,
We're getting ready for Minnesota.
Oh, if fans are looking past it, I'm baffled by that too. But if there's a player or a coach that's like sneaking a peek at what Colorado has going on, man, you have missed the forest through the trees, I guess.
That is our friend Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24/7, who will not be freezing in the open air press box at the Pinstripe Bowl come December.
Smart man I am.
We appreciate your time as always, Schaefer. We'll talk to you next
week. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Schaefer.
That's our friend, Mike J. Schaefer. We've also got some friends over at the Omaha Storm Chasers. They are back in action tonight against the Louisville Bats, 6:35 first pitch. Get on out there to Werner Park and say hi to our guy, Marty Cordero, out there while you're there. More of Benning and Lulla coming up next.
The show will be back in 5 minutes. The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Yeah, I think they're anxious about this practice because we got some new stuff in, and we got this is the first Wednesday in season practice before the game for us, right? So seeing the mistakes from yesterday's practice, I think they're anxious about today right now, and coach starting at the top, Coach Rule, and all the coaches being able to keep that mindset of, hey, it's win this rep right now. Let's concentrate on this moment because the game, it'll be there. We're going to get on the plane and we're going to show up and we're going to kick off at that time. But right now, the game means nothing if we don't handle today right. So
that is so not Coach speak.
No, it's not.
I'm like, that's how you got to do it, man.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. Want to tell you real quick about our friends over at the Warhorse Sportsbook in Lincoln, Nebraska. It is the only casino in Nebraska where sports bets can be placed. You have to place them in person at the Warhorse Sportsbook. Plenty of kiosks, plenty of sportsbook tellers to take your wagers, or you can get the Warhorse Casino app, view the live odds, build your bets anywhere, and then go to the sports book and scan the QR code to place your wager. They've got bets on nearly every major sporting event, straight bets, parlays, props, and live in-game bets all accepted. Visit warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook or get the Warhorse Casino app for details and a full list of house rules. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Speaking of our friends at Warhorse, they also sponsor our phone line where our guy Kool-Aid Steve is chiming in. Steve, what do we got today? Steve, you there, bud?
What's up, buddy?
Steve?
Did we lose him?
Do we got Steve?
Shane, he is out there in the sticks. You never know.
He is
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Steve, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, I'm out on the water fishing, actually.
Are you literally out in what is it, a lake?
Yeah, Lake Francis Case. Say hi, guys. Yeah, I got two guys. We had a little fishing tournament this weekend, and I happened to luck out and win it. And I'm fishing differently than everybody else, so they wanted to come out and see how I was catching them.
So that I'm looking that up. That's a reservoir in South Dakota, right? Lake Francis Case.
Yep, it goes from Pickstown up to Fort Randall. So, like on I-90 at Chamberlain, that's Lake Francis Case.
Oh, gotcha. This looks like a pretty spot.
Steve,
That sounds awesome.
Are you collecting fish to pay up on Damon's bet with the Nebraska-Colorado game, or what's going on?
Oh, please tell me we didn't lose him.
We might not have a great connection out on the lake there.
There he is.
Yeah, I've got some stored up, and I actually packaged them up.
Let's go.
Fillets in each bag, you know. But so I will know a heck of a lot more about Colorado and Nebraska after Thursday, right?
Yeah, so, Colorado's got a toughie with TCU. Like, who do you think tells you more about the next matchup, Nebraska or Colorado?
I mean, with Colorado playing TCU, maybe, and I truly don't know, who they have coming back. But, I think my buddy, he's a huge Colorado fan, and he said, "Oh, we're going to beat TCU," and I said, "What's the?" Oh,
yeah, not a chance.
I had a snag. I thought I had a fish.
This dude is real-time fishing on the phone. Steve, you are wild.
But I mean, so the points are 24, I think.
Somewhere around there, 21, 20. It's somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would think that Colorado would cover that. I don't know. What's the points on the Nebraska-Minnesota game?
So Minnesota is favored by 7.5.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, truly, both teams have, all new players. So
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, Steve, I'm not going to kid you. I'm a little jealous looking at this lake.
What now?
DB's a little jealous of your current location.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The location is pretty. Like, I'm a little jealous of this location. He may be breaking up, Shane. We can get back to him.
Hello? You there?
Yeah, we're here, Steve. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm sorry. We don't get great cell coverage out here.
Hey, Steve, go ahead. Finish your thoughts for me, buddy.
Well, Damon, call me. You've got my phone number.
I do.
Call me and I'll give you particulars of exactly where I'm at. But so we're still, you and Robbie, 21 points on the Colorado game for each 8 fillets versus a large pizza from Mama's.
I got you. I'm thinking about ways to prepare the fish as we speak.
Well, if you call me on your cell phone, I'll send you some pictures
Okay.
of how I prepare mine, and I can give you the recipe and everything.
You got it.
A dip that I make for it, and everybody seems to really, really like it. You know, it's deep fried. But I use Rotella's breadcrumbs as my breading.
Yeah, I live like 1 minute from Rotella's bakery. I'm not kidding you, literally.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate you, Steve.
All right, we'll talk to you after the game on Thursday then.
Thanks, buddy.
That is our guy,
Is it really
Kool-Aid
hard to hear in
Steve.
here? Today it was just me.
Hey, one more time, Coach Rule. I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Is it really hard to hear in here? Today it was just me.
Yeah, that was tough.
First of all, I'm gonna
Did he tap that thing?
Maybe he was just being quiet because he thought he needed to be quiet because he was fishing.
didn't want to scare the fish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
He said, "Oh,
I thought I got one.
I thought I got one." This dude was like real time. Nothing will ever beat Foreman calling us from the hot tub, but that one was close. we did have a guy that snuck a call from the bathroom.
He's like, "Hey, I'm in the bathroom right now. I'm on work break."
He's like whispering. I mean, we've had some doozies.
We have. Well, people got to get their calls into the show.
Dude, that is a pretty lake.
It is. It's not bad at all. I'm not a big fishing guy.
You have a boat.
Yeah, but I'm more just there for the vibes.
Oh my!
You can vibe while
gosh.
fishing. You can do
What?
both.
What a city statement.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't talk. I was in this conversation about the moon the other day.
Yeah.
Because we were practicing at like 5:15 and I could still see the moon. And I wasn't being serious, but I was like, man, it's crazy how you can still see the moon.
Yeah.
One of our coaches, he's from Kearney. And
Central Nebraska. People forget.
And he goes,
ESPN Tri-Cities, shout out.
I mean, deadpan straight face. We're sitting up on the field. He goes, that might be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I go, what? I'm kind of curious about why I can still see the moon without the sun coming up yet. He's like, you've not heard of Galileo? That is such a city statement. I was just like, dang, sorry, Zach.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think that's a city statement because I don't hear a lot of my country boys talking about Galileo, Zach, if we're being real here. I think it's just maybe
not as much as a guy saying he has his boat and he likes to be on the water for the vibes.
Well, listen, I'm out there. I like rocking the boat shoes and like the linen pants and having a cocktail.
Oh my! Who are you?
I'm a little bougie.
What? You're being serious too.
Yeah.
What
My
else?
wife does most of the sailing because she's the one that actually knows what she's doing.
Like the little circular thing, and you actually
Yeah,
you steer like Gilligan.
Well,
and do you listen to Yacht Rock while you're?
We gotta listen to the Yacht Rock, of course.
Dude, I'm not rolling anywhere with you anymore.
Yeah, you are. You love me.
Are we?
And even if you didn't, your mom would be like, Damon. Be nice
I know.
to Robbie."
I know, right? I'm low key mortified.
Why?
Okay? I was cool with the boat. I mean, you do you. Like, man, Pippin's got some guys have boats, right?
Yeah.
But you went with the linen pants and the boat shoes reference. Like, you're doing too much.
No, that's just my vibes.
Oh my god.
Listen, so no, here's the deal with the boat, right? So the wife has been sailing since she was a kid. And so she wanted a sailboat. And I was like, that's fine. But she used to race these little 15-foot snipes. And I've been on one of those once, and they are not big people boats.
Where is she from originally?
So she was born in Washington State. And then she lived in Japan a lot. And then she lived in D.C. and then back in Washington State and ended up here.
Realize she's a Christopher Cross fan. That's wild.
Well, it's a military kid.
Sailing.
Yeah.
Take me away. Shane, that's Christopher Cross, right?
Yes.
And I was like, babe, we can get a boat as long as I feel like I'm on a yacht. So we got a big sailboat. And now I'm vibing.
Oh my gosh.
We've got Tim May.
I don't even know if we can hang out
Letterman
anymore.
Row covering Ohio State. Up next.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Hurrdat Sports presents The Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla.
Welcome back to the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. We are wrapping up the Tuesday show here with our guy, Tim May. He covers Ohio State for Letterman Row. Tim, how are you today?
I'm pretty good, my man. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there, Tim, man. It's always good.
I know that feeling. Go ahead now.
You know, it's interesting. We tongue in cheek yesterday, we were just joking about Coach Day, right? 45-6, but for some reason, this seems like a critical year to beat Michigan. Like, is that not one of the more laughable things? Or are you like, oh, now wait a minute, now there's something to that?
No, there's always something to it, right? I mean, the idea that, you don't even like to get there from the standpoint of there's so many games to play between now and the Michigan game for those guys. But, of course, when that Michigan game rolls around, the 2 straight losses are going to be played up huge, because just like the last 2 years, it's not just that they lost. They lost each year to Michigan, but it kept them from going to the Big Ten championship game, where they had won every one of them for the last almost 4 or 5 years. And number 2, put in jeopardy their shot at going to the college football playoffs. Obviously, they didn't go to it in 2021, but won the Rose Bowl. But hey, who cared about that, right? And then last year, of course, they made the college football playoff anyway, and missed field goal, or in my opinion, not being able to stop Georgia when they needed to in the fourth quarter, which was bigger than the Mississippi. Well, they all added up. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is they came that close to probably playing TCU and playing for the national championship. And by the way, Georgia laid waste to TCU in the championship game. There's a good chance Ohio State was going to do the same thing. So, fellas, we're already into a new era. Now we're headed next year into the deep waters of the new era. 12-team playoff, a Big Ten with 18 teams and no divisions. I think priorities, they're going to shift slowly, probably, but the idea that Ohio State next year could play Michigan, the final game of the regular season, and then play them again the next week in the college football playoff, the Big Ten championship game, and then if they split, those first two games, heck, one of them could be number 5 or 6 in the rankings, the other could be number 12 or 11, and play again the next game. So we're into a new era. I'm not sure how good it's going to be. I'm not going to knock it before we watch it, but just an interesting time. As I like to tell people, the Michigan game, if losing the game got you fired, Jim Harbaugh would have been fired 4 or 5 years ago. John Cooper went 2-10-1 against Michigan for Ohio State. So, Urban Meyer went undefeated against Michigan at Ohio State, and Jim Tressel only lost once. But, their two eras are ended in some weird ways. So, the Michigan game matters, but it mainly has mattered the last 2 years about who gets to play for the Big Ten championship, which is which is the reason it became important in the first place.
Tim, I'm curious here with the way Ryan Day inherited the program. How do you weigh taking over a talent-loaded and fairly good situation versus what he's actually done as a head coach now that we're several years past the Urban Meyer era? How do you kind of weigh that in your head when you're thinking about, whether we like it or not, if he loses to Michigan again, it's going to be a warmer seat than he'd like.
Yeah, unless they're playing for the Big Ten championship the next week. And then, it's going to be definitely warm. But like I said, the impact when you add other games after the Michigan game, it changes things. But Ohio State has never played offense in its history like it's playing offense now.
That's sick. His bugaboo obviously has been getting a defense together, whether it be the proper coordinator, the proper talent. There are all kinds of signs through spring and preseason camp that in the second year under Jim Knowles, this could be a hell of a defense if they can just keep a cap on the bottle. That's what killed them against Michigan and against Georgia finally in that fourth quarter, was giving up the big plays again. If they've got that figured out, this could be a hell of an Ohio State football team, no matter who the starting quarterback is. Yeah, something or nothing that McCord Jr. didn't seize the job, and here we are having, the wait-and-see mode between he and Brown.
Yeah, but they're both 5-star prospects. Brown at one point, depending on where you look, was considered maybe the number one prospect in the country when he came out 2 years ago, because one of the reasons was Quinn Ewers reclassified to an early year. But let's say Devin Brown was number 2. These are two really talented guys, a little bit different in their own ways. Brown's probably a little more significant runner than Cal McCord is, but Cal McCord can run. Cal McCord can pass, but so can Devin Brown. Of course, that's why they recruited them. They can both pass. I'm working my way down into that wormhole. But, fellas, we haven't seen enough of practice ourselves for me to tell you one is better than the other. And evidently, neither is Ryan Day.
Tim, I'm curious, in your mind, you mentioned they're both 5-star prospects. Obviously, whoever takes that starting quarterback job gets to throw to probably the best offensive player in the country in Marvin Harrison Jr. In your mind, does it really matter who the starting quarterback is?
Oh,
no, I think both those guys are ultra talented. And they're going to make mistakes as first-time starters. Now, Cal McCord has started and won a game way back when he was a true freshman he relieved C.J. Stroud, or started the game against Akron like, what was it, the third game of the year when C.J. Stroud was having a shoulder problem. Of course, C.J. Stroud bounced back from that big time. But no, I mean, it's Ohio State probably has – it's not just Marvin Harrison Jr. Ohio State has the deepest wide receiver room in the country in terms of just outstanding over-the-top talent from top to bottom. And I would argue they have the deepest running back room in the country with 5 guys who have played significantly. And, almost every one of them are coming back from getting banged up in one form or fashion last year. But Trevion Henderson has his wiggle back. He didn't have it last year because he had a foot problem, which turned out to be a fracture in one of his metatarsals. And he got that fixed obviously in December, and he didn't get to play against Georgia. Mayan Williams seems to be back close to 100%. And then, they had Dallin Hayden step up as a true freshman last year. He's put on probably 10, 15 pounds, but just looks like a totally different back this year. Chip Trainum, who started the Michigan game, was a high school running back and linebacker, went to Arizona State as a running back, transferred to Ohio State as a linebacker, but middle of the year last year got moved back to running back because of some depth problems. And then you got Evan Pryor, who they had all kinds of things planned for a year ago till he tore up his knee in preseason camp, and he's back and he looks pretty close to 100%. So, just drive the sports car. That's all. Keep it off the berms, keep it out of the wall.
How good do the Chambers and Steel Chambers and maybe I assume it's Carter Jr., but how good do they have to be around Eichenberg to help this defense be what they want to be, knowing that Ha and Tomomalu are back playing in front?
Yeah, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. Now that Jack Sawyer is back to full-time defensive end, the last 2 weeks especially, according to reports from the coaches, he stepped his game up big time. They think you have 2 bookend defensive ends again, along with a guy to keep an ear out for his name or an eye out for his highlights. It's Kenyatta Jackson, who really blossomed in the spring and just looks like he's wearing number 97, the same number the Bosa brothers wore, and he looks the part. And then Caden Curry, a guy that they got a year ago, who went through some ups and downs as a freshman, but they really like him coming off the edge also. And then, but the guy, Tommy Eichenberg, who got basically snubbed by the Butkus Award last year, may be the best linebacker in the Big Ten. There can be some arguments there. Steel Chambers is back, obviously, so the 2 starting linebackers are back, but a guy to keep your eye on is a guy named C.J. Hicks, wears number 11, and reminds you of Micah Parsons, not just with the number, just the way he plays. And then there was a kid who played for Ohio State way back in the mid-'90s. I go all the way back, of course, but I covered his dad. Lorenzo Styles was the linebacker back in the mid-'90s. His son, Sonny Styles, could be the true breakout defensive player in the Big Ten this year if he stays healthy. Number 6, he's a quasi-safety, quasi-linebacker, quasi-defensive end. They think he can cover slot receivers for the most part. He can drop into a middle zone and cover the field and then come up on the edge and come off the edge. So there's a guy to really keep your eye on too, along with the regulars coming back. They really feel good about their cornerbacks. This time a year ago, they didn't because almost every one of them were banged up, and it showed in some big-time games. But I'm trying to get it all in at once before y'all cut me off, before my quarter runs out. You know what I'm saying? But Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, but the kid they got from Ole Miss, Davis Onigbenosin, cornerback, reminds you of Jeffrey Okuda from Ohio State from way back in 2019. Big, tall, rangy guy that can cover. And so they feel really good about the quarterback room also. I guess what I'm saying is they look like they're loaded, but, will they be able to fire their gun?
Fair enough. That is our friend Tim May.
You never disappoint.
Ohio
Always
State.
so good. Appreciate you.
For the Letterman Row. Tim, we'll talk soon.
You got to get some oxygen right now. Appreciate that.
That's all for today for the Damon Benning Show with Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow and start previewing game week on Minnesota.
It is Minnesota time.